Radio Bula Duavata me Kauti Keda Vata mai San Francisco ki Burubura. Sema mai ngai wase yani.
And a radio.
Hello, Queen. Are you wanting to leave your corporate job?
Ni bula vinaka, ni mata vinaka mai saving ana vano ni sema tiko makina and kabi vinaka ni moni tindendai ni ka Ka ono ni singa ni Bula November, to tolo tungana toso ni ngauna da sa mai adhabatali te kongoa na Bula November ka waka nui nui ni te ka bubinaka na Bula Ngoa na Bula November, ke to mai vesau tiko na ngauna, ve ki tau e Amerika, e na noa, e na state ongoa California. Kene mbale ato sana vi sivi tiko e na ono na e aua, ve ki mdo mai viti, waka nui nui vinaka tiko e ani, o ke la senangai mataka tiko, mataka lelei tiko ve ki mdo, o waka mbula tiko e ani, waka e anra tiko e ani ve kia mani, e na ve wano e so ni seama tiko me kena, ve wano e so ni rongo da tiko kena na biau liba ni Radio Bula Duavata, e na mataka vinaka ni tusi tendendai, ve kia mando, senge mataka tiko ni moniti, rungu atunan raki e sanango i e totoaka tu, senga ni ndona ka menda na vosa kundru kena, da waka vinu vinaka tiko ngā ni soli tiko na idhengu ni mbula, do tali tiko na singa vo, me na garawi tiko kena na vitavi tu, na madhau vo, do tali tiko ngā na bula vo, ka waka nui ni tiko ani. Se mani dhawa ngā i nomu ni tuba tiko, so re tiko mni menda tiki tiko ni nomu ni tuba, ni o kata tiko na nomu ni tuba, na nonda vese mati tiko na vea kawi ni moni tike na wakarombuka, e na nonda wata ngoa na Radio Bula Duavata, e a mena tolu ke na vitu na kaloko. Weke tau e California, o atu kone tiko e ni ani vesau na ngauna e na noa, ke na mbale a ke tau wakami ke tau wakilani sana balavu wakalele na mbongi, lewu toka wakalele na ngauna ni moade, totoaka tu, senga ni ndona ka e vosa kundru taki, e sanango, waka nuni vinaka tiko ani, se venga na wanoa ni seama tiko mai kina, kau sura tiko mni, me ndana vei toma ni tiko ani, ana nonde wasi ni ngona vata, ene kawi ni kua, vida tiko na prograramu, ena mai lewe ana tiko na nonde wasi ni ngona, ene kawi ni kua, o ana ngona wakarotaki, karatondo vei toko ni tiko mai kina, na Regional Pacific Islander Task Force, ni otina wā, o tia sandanangai mai rongoa tiko na nonde wasi ni ngona wakamadhawa, ena vei a kawi ni moni tiki rondo vei toma ni tiko ani ke Mrs. Titilia nei tini, ena nonde wasi ni ngona ni dhawi ka lawa ka vei toko ni tiko kina na JJ's Food Shack, o tia sanga mai ndua tali tungana nonda vulangi, ena kawi ni kua mai na ono na kaloko ke ronanga me vital no tiko ani, turanga ni wambuta turanga tiko ni Samoa, ona ngai waka matailalai taka ani na veka so ke rona mai vital no tiko kina, se na vuku ni programa dhawa ke rona mai vital no tiko ni kina, ena kawi ni kua, ia senga walenga ni oia, ndona vital no talanga ke toa waka edhore na madha o Sawoti, a katoni, karatou vei toko ni kina na Ethnic Media Services, mena mai dana ronga Duavata, ena kawi ni kua, dina ni ke to vivo saki teko waka walangi, na kai vinaka tu kina, rau tu kino kenda tō ia ni tō ke la ke te tona vosa walangi, ia na ni tō vital no tiko na vuku ngā ni ndona prograramu, se ndona programo er tō de waka tiko na Ethnic Media Services e adhana tiko na Stop the Hate. Ke tō mai vital no tiko kina ke na ndua na itau ke ni ndua na Caregiving Agency, Mrs. Mereani Kanivere, ke na ndua talanga na nono wakelesi rito benga rabitiko na non rito agency ka ona ngai waka matata takeani na other ni agency ke na vanua rito tiko kina ke to mai vital no tiko nia na buku ngona nga ni ulutanga ya na Stop the Hate dina ni roni takai ni senga ni to wakila so te wakaliwo ke te tone to ke na stop na we wakanduindui take waka automata se na racial discrimination e tiko sona ka e rauni takai ni da wakila kina mai na non da samai tu e na bono livongo Amerika se rauni kai beka na vesi burubura talngai so e rauni to kai kina ni to wakila na sona ngona e rauni to reida votu e na sona ngona na we wakanduindui taki e na we tambana talngai ni daka so au sure tika mni o ya na we kai so ya e na mai lewena tiko ya ni na nonde wasini ngona vata e na kawi vinaka ni moni tindindai nge me kiana ilutu tu ya ni na we sere so e na wakatangi taki tiko ya ni ke na tukutuku ni we boli waka vinaka tiko kina we kamba ni ka ni sa mai mbiuta tiko na nomu ni tukutuku ni we boli we toko ni tiko kena kena ndaudidi waki tiko na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti kenda wata tiko mai e na we a kawi nomu ni toka ni go una vuni nda kua tomani manda na wakarongo sere na kawi ni kua na nonda sere katarawa ka ona we waka mbula tiko ni kina we tua kango wase madha se tareki ndo mbula vinaka na we tumbuni we tinani mai na mbua waka nuni vinaka tiko ni we kimdo mai na Greece World mai nambua wakatela kia na velitia tu wakawa ni Bula Vinaka. Wakanui ni Vinaka te kane vi kiomni litia ni sama te kumbeka mai ve na kavini koa. Waka Bula talitu ngai ani ve tori ka tinai ke kimdo ke desara na sama te kongori mana atu kuka au nui taka ni totoka tunan raki mai a sanangori ni ondo Bula Vinaka talitu ngā ka wakatela te wakatelinga kina ve marida dholati. Ni Bula Vinaka marida, Bula Vinaka noa watu ni wai. Vinaka wakalevu na sema tiko mai Fairfield. Vada watu na raki mai sanangori. Wikito e na Tombangoa e to toka tu. O nui taka ni to toka talitunga nan raki veki mundou mai Dhakengori. Wakambula tiko ani na vesa i mirika kethe saro ni sema tiko mai kina e na kavini kua. E na vesa i vuruvura kethe saro ni sema tiko mai kina. Wakambula talitunga ani veki mundou mai Australia, mai New Zealandi, veki mundou mai Samoa, ndo Bula Vinaka. Senga talani ndo ngwele dhavi tikino ki mundou na ndo sema tiko mai Engilandi. Bula Vinaka tavale iliasa ilovingau wakatela kina vi turanga nei ta. Bula Vinaka manasa walevu, wakanuni Vinaka tiko ani veki mundou rau. Na turanga e rua e na kawi Vinaka ni moni tindai ni sa sivatongo na tolu e na tini ka rua na miniti e na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti Keda Vata tiko mai Bula Vinaka Rosa.
na dhavu ikalawa kei Mrs. Titilea Naitini. Vei talanota ki kena na ulu tanga mimbi ka daun rendre na kena vei talanota ki sewa sei ana matana lewu. Ulu tanga ni tosu ki liu. Vei waka ungeti ka dau vei la beti. Rongode na vei akavi ni tu siti ni sivna tinikaro na tinikaliman miniti vei kemando viti. Sivna lima na tinikaliman miniti vei kemando California ana vei singa moniti. Ana vei tokoni ni JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Rongode na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti Keda Vata mai. Nongu chisu nongu banua. Dorongode na vima mani ono kina vitu ena kauni bugululu vei kemando California. Vei mamani ruana kavi kina tolu ena singalewu ni lotilewu vei kemando viti. E warotaka na New Methodist Christian Fellowship USA. Rongode na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti Keda Vata mai. Kay dubo ka tutulutiko. Daw saya lumbala mo din. Sa baramandangan to buli-buli, gayaw talito ni stoa.
Tolako. Sa niya na stoa, wala ka tungang maulimat. May binaka ni sa tukit sa nga kina nagkatungan reba, may paleta na natutoy lalako.
May binakasar nga. Wala roti karibante ni kina. Dato birito na bisi nga nagkarimate ni, it means kaya na sausage roll. Gaya rito makuntal nga napukasangay bukas sa gilay mo na bisi. Karatal mo na address?
4525 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2, Santa Rosa.
Dobo ka para utsuk bega kina do na ni matubale, senong do boli nga baka matawa. Wala to mata kina mauli mata. Esa tu kede kina na yaya ni kakana. Yaya ni ti kina bikala lai tale so, kanda unrendre na kunea. Atu raw talaga ni kota ni nomu ni boli ke baka ni tiko man na Marine se Sonoma County, kandendre nomu ni vila baki. Vitar tarani kina napa ni taliboni, 125 saiba. Vitu tolu 5 vitu na kena ituku matay lalai. Mauli mata. 525 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2, Santa Rosa, California.
Endona mate kuniti wale wabekenda mana wasa Pasifika na hepatitis B. Kunei ni nduwa mana wayatini corona nini winua mana wasa Pasifika Amerike ni tobi riti kuna matembo na hepatitis B. Ongoli wake na kena rawi betobi sena tobi kuna matini ngadangada se liver cancer. Endende mendo kila kesate mkwentiko. Na wakani sengo sote ni kene wakatakele kila se symptoms wakabo kesa mbimbi na mate. Mbimbi ngone kila mono wakani kewi nyambaleta na hepatitis B. Peter mai kene telefoni 526 ono vitu wa 51watolu sesi kobo na nondo to website www.sfhepbfree.org.
Ena muna ngauna na levo ni nondo soso enda sa senga sarangan nikila na dabu menda baka talutaka buka singi leutaka sa baka ya kapitang ne kakuni lo malenga sa tipin dono bunua erau ni buka dingo ikimuni wayana JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Na veio matangali kaka na itibigina me baka na karitoa waraisi na lobo palusami na buwaka na kaiwa soso na dalo na toa na kokonda bayangani ka ng gamure na kaka na buwa malang me baka na steak gay baka loka tabio ka na coleslaw surua tatni kailangan ko bata na kaya na pie ng bani kay na manray o yan na JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Erau sarang ano direct message virto giring akin na bitu sa iba bitu tolo dio tolo do limono se o nga wala sarang alito mito may nanomota na dio maluma Billy Street o ya Santa Rosa, California. Erau talaga ni rito ulit dilibata kayo na nagkemo katalawa sing lebo sa mga kabi ya may Santa Rosa, Kinavato. JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California.
Ida baka binubinaka tiko kina vikambani so me bakataka na JJ's Food Shack na nonreto veito koni ka rawa ni may rongo ditiko kina na ve programo iso may garabira tiko yani kina na nonda programo na ve singa na ve akavio ya na tolu kina vitu na kaloko na ve ulutanga se na ve programo endo baka tangi takiani se endo ve talano ataki na ve talano se na ve ulutanga endo mai ve talano taki tiko yani na nonde wasiningo na vatongo ke baka senga beka na ngona se ni oso senga ni rawa ni rongo tiko na programo na lamani bana yawa senga na Langa ninge siko batingani na neto Radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel ndonga imbiuti ko kina na bi programo karawa ni rongo da saranga na bi ka ni be rongo da senga ninga ndrebi kina moni na rongo da tiko na ba na yawa na programo ni ba na yawa o ana Radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel ko sret kimni ninge subscribe tiko ni kina vakata litunga kina so nga una ndo da buka tiko na rorongo and Facebook and YouTube and seanga ni na wakakina ka me ndua tani toka wakalilai na rorongo na YouTube channel. Koe ake tondo sureti kam ni tiko kina mo ni subscribe kina ni to YouTube channel. Na Radio Bula Duavata ke wakai singe matai tiko ni ngauna no ni sea matiko mai ke ritu ngā ke rauni ni ngai ndoi tiko ngana like ni wasia tok ngai ni na nondo to Vata Vatongo ngai muri ke to tok matanga mai na veivu ke sar tiko wakalevu. Na nito sasanga tiko ya me ngai oti na mbakiongo se me oti ni singa ni Disemba ronondolu rosanga bulka tolu me sa rota tiko ni menta sa doba tiko ya ni nandua nandrau na ndolu na leo ni matabu vale ni Radio Bula Duavata. Nangonongo bambuta sa ono sanga bulka walu tiko bakadada na undolu na nondo leo ni matabu vale ko ya kiri tiko kina kera ni uninge wasia toka ya ni nandua na vivu ke lebu tiko ya nugu wasia tiko ni go obia bi bakungeti talitunga ya ni vikimuni na vimbisi nisi and Vea sai buru-buru tapangau, ni wakan business tu kena, ni wakan durin business tu ko kena, ngona indona bonongo, indona Vata ngo eroni ni na mai kadi waka kena mai mbiu kena na nomu ni tuku ni vei boli. Meroni ke tonga kadi waka tuani ni ge tartar mai roni tonga ve tal no tiko kena. Senga ni indona kaendre o yana kai tali tu kena na toso tuni ngona na technology and sa ride tu e ngonongo. Ya so na kavina kai ni da vital no taka na technology so na advantages so ya sena kavina kai so ya tiko talangana kena da kanda senga ni da matamboko tiko kena senta dindi vara tiko kena se rambiaka ni ukaya senga ni dondono menta na waka matamboko takianta kena senta dindi vara kena na veka da e rau ni na kutatali tunga mai na technology sena kena sa tos tiko na ngauna tosa wata tiko kena wakararata ki tu na vi tosa na vi wakau ni tukutuku kena veka tali so Radio Bula Duavata waka mbula tiko yani veka mni ke de sarana sema tiko mai na kavini kua na vi andu di toka pakalilai no to porokaramu na kavini koa na lamni vida na minitinga mengo au surit kamni ni sema tinga mai sana wakatangi tukan kina na nei to tala no tiko na madha sa woti ka mai katoni wakanuri tiko ke wakai lebu ve kamni ni na wakarorong mai na vitala no ya oni na sulia talanga mai na no muni wakasama e rau ni nandona singa ke wakai na rato na numa mena ngai ndo taleani na kena tomani tale na vital no ya e rau ni na ngai midaka ngai na ngona Vata Vango na mai na tolu kina vitu na kaloko me live saranga yo koa e katoni mai na madhau saoti ke toa vital no tiko kina ke rau na turanga na marama ka rovinga ravitiko e nandua na caregiving agency e Petaluma au na ngai wakamadhala takayani na yadhan rau ke na yadhan ni kambani o ya nonda rau ngoni to kei talanga caregiving agency ni toke kau wakamauta ni na vinaka menda wakarorongo ke mai kina wakambimbi we kenda tau na sa mai dhaka tiko Amerika na tambana ni dhaka ngose na longa ni caregiving ko e usuri tika mni tiki na baleta ni vosa tali tunga mikina se wakaitabi talinga mikina indua na loya karau ni na soli wakasama na nomundondonu waka caregiver ka wakatalanga kina vikiumni talanga na wakaitauke ni business sa ni didi wakatiko na nomuni agency and tambana ngoa ni benga ravis na caregiving agency au suret kimni ni sama talitunga me kina ngoa na wukunga ni programo ka didi wakatiko ngoa na Ethnic Media Services do talanga ni songo do wito ko ni mai bakalevu na kena didi bakitiko na nonda Vata Vatongo na Radio Bula Duavata orto na Ethnic Media Services endo na programa ya bakatoka itiko na Stop the Hate o kelasan na kila ke tu ia ke tonga vakamadala takavirato na Ethnic Media Services ni o kenda na ito ke kenda na kai vitinda ngole mai nda senga soti ninda mai bakila na rambek ni kana borbora ni beba duindui taki wakatamata me wakaira wakila tali o irana be katamata tali so na racial discrimination koia ke tau samani ge be tala no kina ena tambana kanda buta sartunga kino kenda na ito ke se kenda na kai vitinda sami daka tu ena banoli bungo Amerika ena caregiving sa ngai kila itu e sonaka endo do lakaduruma ena nonda daka wa caregiving ena bukunga ni ke lani da tūna da wakasama gona nungu dhaka e so na ka da sota kaya da laku dhuruma e senga so tini da wakasama tako ya se men da tora vau ya wakani ngona be wakandundu taki wakatamata beka sen racism beka e wakatiku mingo be awe wangana ngauna tu senga ni tu sanga kinto me kuni vaya na nonda to wakasama na nonda to wakanana nundina nga ni be keba kaira reida o ira na kenandau era rauni na kaya ngori na be wakandundu taki wakatamata ia tuna nonda tonu senta wakapeapa se senga ko ya usureti community ko kina ninge sema tinga mai na lomani vida na minitingo au sana wakatangtakani mentana ngai rongo the tiko na veitala noia ke to mai veitala no tikina Vata na liu director tiko ni porokaramoya na Stop the Hate mai na Ethnic Media Services Mr. Julian Doe ke na na lawyer vega ravitalitunga vekenda mai na Wasa Pasifika o katalitunga ke na ira na Asia kan do lako duruma senda vakila vakalebu na be vakandundu taki vakambimbi talitunga na be bono ni dakadake so ke rau na turanga na marama ko na ge vakamadala te ke rau tukani and ndona ngona leka ngo di sama tunga mai and ngona mantanga ngo tendo talimando na de tavisere kano ve vakambula tukani kena ve kimdo na sama tikongori mai Wagga New South Wales bula vina kalaveti mbali suva vakatela kena ve marama na ita feni biu mai wai ke kimdo ke de sara na sama tikongori mai Sacramento don bula vinaka wakanui vinaka ni tosa vinaka se mai teko vinaka tale ndo tale na madha vo ni vengaravi na madha ngo vakatela kena wana Boso levu tau ke talitunga ni wabu levu na Golden Gate bula vinaka Steve Murphy ke kemundo talinga na marama na turanga ndo vengaravitiko na suva cancer survivors ni bula vinaka yada vakatalanga kina ve sista chutati ela veti ndo bula vinaka Sherry Vandinga vinaka vakalevu na sema tiko mai na singalevu ni kua vakambula talitunga ni ve Ratu Vini Prakash vinaka vakalevu mai New Zealand vinaka na sema tiko mai na kavini kua au ke lasen kai mataka mbeka ngore kim do bakatanga kena ve Louis Dexter koroi tui the kauni bula vinaka vakanduni vinaka tuka ana kim do mai Serne Australia maraya vakawali tambua ni bula vinaka vakatanga kena ve sayasi vinaka vakalevu na sema tiko mai sayasi ke kim do na sema tiko ngore mai Santa Rosa bula vinaka Mrs. Rosa Ratu vakanduni vinaka tuka ana kim do au no taka ni ndo bula vinaka tiko vakatanga kena ve Takayawa Lambati Malombula, wakatanga kena ve ame raratambu ni bula vinaka ame ni sema tikum peka mai ve na kavinikua. Wakambula talitangani ve vuku miri ni bula vinaka wakatanga kena ve melaya lutu na biau. Vinaka wakalevu na sema tikum mai melaya wakanuni vinaka tiku ani na kavi vinaka ni moni tindendai ni ka ono ni singa ni vulo November ni samai botongo e rua sanga bulu kadhio na miniti me vana kaloko.
Radio Bula Duavata me Kauti Keda Vata mai San Francisco ki Burubura. Sema mai ngai wase yani.
Thank you.
Weverito nandomo ni savu e arto mai viva kamaru te kitu kani vikenda na kabi benaka ni moni tinde ndai ni kaono ni singa ni Bula November. Wakanui ni benaka tiko ani se venga na bono ni siama tiko me kena na kavi ni kua mataka ni kua singa levu ni kua bongi levu ni kua vekem do mai Inlandi ndo Bula benaka wakanui ni benaka ni toso benaka tiko na kena ngarabi tiko na itabi na vivo no so ni venga rabi tiko kena wakatanga kena no vitabi ke te sara ngarabi tiko na vivo no ni daka so mai viti wambota singa levu tiko ni tusi tiongo wakanui ni benaka ni toso benaka tiko na venga rabi me waka wabakarita tiko ni au na waka tangitaka ni ngonda sana bakarorong saramandani ki nandua na vitala noa ke toa bakaidora tiko na madha o sawati vitala nongo mai liutaka tiko na Ethnic Media Services na liutaki na nonreto sasanga tiko na Ethnic Media Services me mai vitala no taki vikenda na itokei vikenda na kaiviti kanda sa ngole mai da sama iba tiko na bono lebongo Amerika ndua na ulutanga ka vital no taki saratiko bakalebu o bambota na ngona saramatanga go e levo saratiko na kena vital no taki se na kena sangai tiko da sarida na bebo no ison da rongo tiko na news da bakamuri tiko na tukutuku sengolenga na nonda na be ibonu enda tiko kena e sei burubura taliso na be sei burubura taliso ayan kena sa tumbu taki tanga na be dati koya e ramba levu e titombu ulutanga ramba levu ulutanga titombu sara ka kituna numa ni ngo senangai kene matai ni vital na kena vital no taki na ulutanga ngo na stop the hate weekend to na itoke ka rauni nangai tomani tiko yani nangai Ronito nangai waka dikia watiko yani na kena na ulutanga ngo me waka utukuna ni rambai levu ka titombo. Ronito nangai reida tali tiko yani na vitambane so. Na vida na madha o mengo ke waka arto na Bula Duavata tiko me kena na Ethnic Media Services serto na lewa mai serto na numa na Ethnic Media Services ni na dondono me na me vital no takitiko. Ia. Ke tō vital no e na madha sawati na weekend tō na i tō kei weekend tō na kei witi e senga soti ni tōndo wake lava ka levu na racial discrimination se na vida vati mbeka wa kautamata se na viva ka ndui taki mbeka wa kautamata tō senga soti ni tō wake la me waka toto wata taki ke ira na kai randiu kana ke Amerika loloa se o ira mbeka na kai na Mexican Spanish se o ira tale na Asia e rawakila sarawaka lebu ira ia weekend tō koe ana ka ke tō mai wakarita ka tiko ke na Ethnic Media Services ni o kenta tō senga soti ni tō wakila ia de raumbeka ni rawakila tu e so ka rawenga rawi tō ana tambana ka tō mai wenga rawi kina wakalebu ni tō ke o ana tambana ni wenga rawi sen caregiving ia na madha sawati ke tō mai vital no tiko ke na liu ni Porokaramungo Mr. Julian Doe and Ethnic Media Services. Wakatalinga kino Miss Winifred dua na lawyer mai na Asian Law Caucus. Ka wakatalinga kina o Mrs. Meriani Ikanivere dua na itoke ni Prestige Home Care mai Petaluma. Prestige Home Care na Caregiving Service Agency mai Petaluma sa rosanga bulu bakadada na kia na didi tuku mai na agency ongo nono benga rabi boli tuku mai na marama ni roi matuku lau na vonoli bongo California ka buta binaka tu na tambanongo na tambana ni benga rabi na caregiving da rauni bakantina dina takatali tungai do talanga na kai rauni da bakabini binaka tukina ni sa libu sartiko na itoke sa mai bakandurin business tiko ra bakandurin business sartungai na tambanongo na tambana ni venga ravi se na caregiving libu sari California kana mai wake tabi tali tungani kina na turanga nei ta Aquila Wira na vitala no ke tomi wakaidora na madha o sawoti ke wakao ni na wakarorongo mai ni rautalangani ni wakaitabi me kina na nomu ni wala mai na taro se sombeka na nomu ni wakasama sombeka na kau ni na o ni lakuduruma mbeka na wano ni dhaka so se sombeka na kau ni viataronga mai me wakani na wakaitabi talitungani kina wakamadhala talitungani kina na o Miss Winifred na lawyer mai na Asian Law Caucus kana wakamatata taka talangani o koe na nondondondonu waka tamata dhaka se manitiko na peapa se senga. E andona ka e ndondonu menta na ki la tiko. Ka andona ka ndo waka binibina ka tukina, ka ndo talno taka waka lewu o senga ni na oda na ndau da wuta tiko ngoa na ni o kianta tau na mai tau iawu i California. Tau tuku ni tu o California, e wakatu e ndona mata ni tu ngā wakata ki koe, ndo tiu ngā na wanua ngā se na country of its own, ndo tuku ni tu. E na lewu ni ndondonu e ndau tu taka tiko o California, e na wukunda na kautamata kandalako mai na visai wurawura taliso, E nda sa rongo da saramandeani, o wia tokarua takatale ke wakau ni wakarorongo tiku mai na vital nongo, ni wakongeti so mbeka na kau, ni lako duruma na vibono ni takatake so, o ni via taronga mbeka se o ni via wasia mai, raundi o ni wala talinga mai, se tu mbeka na kau ni via soli waka sama mikina, koia kere ki ni ninge wala mai ke wakau ni senga ni vina kata me wili ko wura na nomu ni wakasama se na kau ni via wasia mai raundi o ninge inbox mai an Radio Bula Duavata se ni volanga mai biau una vuninda kua. Gona vitala noa ni Stop the Hate mai verto na Ethnic Media Services.
And Una, please start.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all the panelists that are present in our session today. Also, a very warm welcome to those of you who will get to listen to this recording. This would be the first session of Stop the Hate series initiated by the Ethnic Media Services, and hopefully the first of many. I would like to, first of all, introduce Julian Doe. He's a co-director of Ethnic Media Services, a national coalition of ethnic media, and he's also the director of EMS Stop the Hate program.
Great. Thank you so much, Una. Like Una said, my name is Julian Doe, co-director of EMS and head of the Stop the Hate program there. EMS is a national coalition of ethnic media with headquarters in San Francisco. We have been part of the Stop the Hate initiative administered by the California State Library under the API Equity Fund. This program is designed to address hate crimes, incidences, civil rights, and institutional racism, aimed at diverse and underserved communities throughout California. Today's discussions is part of our collaboration series between ethnic media and nonprofits community-based organizations to jointly address hate and civil rights issues because the challenges are so great that no organizations or sector can do this alone. So EMS is pleased to partner with Radio Fiji and the Asian Americans Advancing Justice to focus on the Pacific Islanders caregivers, many of whom have experienced labor abuses, economic exploitations, and hate issues. Our discussion will also present information on resources and services that affected caregivers could access to protect themselves and improve the situations. Thank you, Una, and back to you.
Thank you, Julian. Also present with us today is Mrs. Mereani Ikanivere, who is also a former caregiver and current owner of Prestige in-home care based out of Petaluma. I would like to turn the time over to Mrs. Ikanivere to share a little about herself and her company.
Mariana, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Juliet and Winnie and also Radio Bula Duavata for this collective opportunity to share the state of caregiving amongst the Pacific Islanders in the U.S. and more specifically for our Fijian community. I'm Mariani Ikanivere, and I am the owner of the Prestige Home Care. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to discuss this because caregiving is the core of most Fijian families here in the U.S. And having this platform to highlight and amplify the business of Fijian caregiving in America is critical because it carries with attitudes, beliefs, and practices that can be starkly different from those of the general US population. And it also carries many rewards to having Fijian caregivers to look after elderly and loved ones in American families. Um, as you know, the Fijian people, we are naturally very happy people, hospitable, compassionate, and we're very loving. And part of this, it's emanates from these multi-generational styles of communal living, which is living with extended families and having responsibility to look after friends and elderlies. So this spirit fosters unbreakable ties and a tight knit community like no other. So resources are shared to ensure no one goes without. And in times of hardship, people pull together to confirm just how strong Fiji community spirit really is. So it is this loving and caring spirit that they carry with them wherever they go. And it certainly transcends into the business of caregiver in the US. So if you're looking for the caregiver, and I can recommend that the Fijian caregivers are one of the best. And also you can look into the Fijian caregiving agencies. And and I have been involving in caregiving both as a caregiver and also as an employer for more than 20 years. And I must say that it's not always a smooth sailing um, undertaking. It requires and demands a lot. For caregivers, it requires a lot of patience, compassion, love, empathy, diligence, and one must possess a wide range of problem solving skills. And as for employer, we are mindful of the challenges that caregivers faces and trying to find the balance to negotiate a win-win contract between us, the employer, clients, and the employees. At the outset, it would be remiss of me not to mention that not all clients can afford the rates which most caregivers have come to feel or think that we are entitled to. For instance, some feel that they are entitled to get this much pay. So in that, and that is not always the case. When we negotiate contract with a client, we of course look at the ability to the standard rate for the level of care. And as I alluded to before, because we are very loving and caring people, we have to be kind and considerate of families who desperately need the care but do not have the financial resources to foot the bills. So um, as the agency owner, I have been at the forefront of this situation because I fully empathize with the client and we try our best to come to the consensus and mutually agreeable term that will satisfy all parties, clients, caregivers, and the employer. So when I draw up the contract for the caregiver, we explain these terms to them, and if they agree, they can sign on with us. If not, they are free to look for other caregiving agencies that offers better remuneration. So that's for the caregiver. And for us, we take into consideration the humane side of the caregiving that will provide a practical and rewarding way for all parties. Of course, I know the rewards may not be immediate for my company, but I believe and have witnessed, how my company has evolved and grown through these years when I'm guided by the principle of love and care for those who need it most. So the challenges along the way with regards to caregiving is the communication is the key. And I believe that good communication strategy is important as an employer, and we need to keep clients and caregiver informed of trends or innovative ways to caregiving to avoid any mishaps in the workplaces and also avoid burnout. As for the caregiver, overworked and they need their rest or time out. And caregivers can only do so much, but we are only humans, so we have limitations. We need time out to enjoy, to meet friends and families, or taking vacations. So this provides that critical space of to rejuvenate and come back better, prepared to resume work. So I know at times some caregivers feel they can do a live-in case for 7 days. Well, this was the case for some of our caregivers in the past. We have had to change strategy to avoid caregiver burnout and other associated challenges. It is also critical for employers to know their caregivers and what they are capable of. And this helps a lot in identifying or assigning a caregiver to a client. For instance, when I assess a case, I could figure out who I will assign to look after the client. The caregiver I appoint is not only an ambassador of my company, but a representative of the Fiji caregivers in general. So they will carry with them the qualities and virtues that are unique and distinct among other caregivers, because they're very respectful, kind, and hardworking. Um, and they take extra mile and initiative to do other things to make life easy and enjoyable for the client. So that's a quality unheard of and rare among those in the caregiving business, where most go in and just stick into the job description. So it's the extras that makes the client's families appreciate our duty of care, and we leave behind the indelible memories of how their loved ones were provided the best care, and the good deeds don't go unnoticed. Um, and I'm thankful for the Fijian community that makes all of this possible, and I'm incredibly proud of the community that supported me and other caregivers in the industries. And I understand that they have some challenges that we are going through, and I think that we are going to discuss about it during the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Merani Ikanivere of the Prestige In-Home Care. We're also very fortunate today to have Aquila with us. And the reason why I say that we're fortunate, because when we're thinking caregiver, when you hear caregiver, we're always like thinking it's a female. So that's why I said today we're very fortunate to have Aquila with us, Mr. Aquila, who is also a caregiver, and we would like to ask him to share his testimonial on the experiences that he's had since he's been a caregiver and since he first arrived in California, why he decided to take this route to be a caregiver, and if he has experienced any experiences with racism, hate incidences, maltreatments, and maybe economic exploitation that he has been exposed to, and any types of stress and trauma that he could share, and the kind of help he would like to receive as a caregiver. Mr. Aquila.
Thank you, Una. Bula Duavata, everyone. I take this opportunity to thank this forum for reaching out to highlight the importance of caregiving as a great calling to most Fijians that reside here in California. I refer to caregiving as a great calling for Fijians because I know that the duty of care is embedded in our DNA. It's something that comes naturally to us, and as Merani had alluded to, because of the multi-generational style of living, we all pitch in to look after the children and elderly in our homes way back in Fiji before we came to the US. And as professing Christians, we are guided by the golden rule in the Bible that says, do unto others what you'd have them do to you. So we feel a deep connection with the clients, and there's filial piety. That we treat our clients like our own family, and it's what makes the Fijian caregiver different. I came to the US 10 years ago, and along the way I've learned a lot of things about caregiving. Whilst the duty of care comes naturally to us, we still have to undergo professional training and obtain certifications and pass certain health tests in order to become a caregiver. And at the same time, we try to keep a good rapport with clients and caregiving agencies. I'm reminded that we don't have to put all our eggs in one basket, so we keep registering our interest with other caregiving agencies in order to, secure jobs because of the unpredictable nature of this business. where that one day you'll be happy with the client, and the next day he'll probably be gone. So it's always best that you keep a good rapport, a good working relationship with other caregiving agencies and fellow caregivers who would be able to share with you opportunities, job opportunities that do crop up here now and then. I've also taken a keen interest in looking after different types of clients with challenging and varying degrees of care. So I found myself I thrive on challenging or pressure situations, so I'm always finding ways to keep myself busy. A good caregiver is kept abreast with the latest info on care. So I subscribe to channels and email distribution lists so I can read up on various topics of interest, especially with caregiving. And I'm a firm believer in sharing what you know. Knowledge is power, and a little help always goes a long way. So over the years, I have witnessed how Fijian caregivers have been able to successfully complete targeted projects back in Fiji. And some have set up their businesses, some have built their houses, while some have made investments in stock or elsewhere. So whatever targets and projects we envision, we try our best to achieve them. It's not always easy. A lot of sacrifices have to be made. People come here to work and make money to upgrade their living standards at home. So you don't see this kind of paycheck back home, but I must add that the Fijian caregivers in the US have had their share of critics and what they call noisemakers on social media, that this is a job that's looked down upon. You're changing diapers and cleaning up clients, but hey, isn't this what we do back home as well? But our parents did this kind of care. So it's a great calling, and we love every bit of it. It's putting food on the table, it's paying for the bills, and of course we are actively contributing towards Fiji's economy and remittances. And I must thank you once again for this opportunity. It's a critical platform to raise awareness about exceptional services of Fijian caregivers in the US and their contribution to healthcare in America. It's something that's ingrained in us, and we are reminded that the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. That's from Mark chapter 10, verse 45. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aquila. And lastly, I would like to also introduce to you Miss Winnie Kao. Winnie is an attorney at law, and she is with the Asian Americans Advancing Justice. I would like to ask Winnie if she could introduce herself and share with us a little about her organization and how that all ties into this conversation.
Thanks, Una. My name is Winnie Gao, and I lead the Workers' Rights Program at the Asian Law Caucus. Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Asian Law Caucus is our full name, but we refer to ourselves just as the Asian Law Caucus for short. But we're a community-based legal services organization. We're located in San Francisco. And our workers' rights program advocates on behalf of low-income, low-wage immigrant workers on a wide range of workplace issues through direct representation, through impact litigation, policy work, and also just community education and outreach work. A lot of the workers that come to us with help around unpaid wages, retaliation, discrimination, sexual harassment, and workplace health and safety violations, just to name a few issues. But the vast majority of the clients we see are Asian immigrant workers. Most are either monolingual in an Asian language or have only limited English proficiency. So a lot of the folks we see are cooks. They might be dishwashers, janitors, drivers, domestic workers, and definitely caregivers. I'm excited to have the chance to be here today because definitely from what we've seen through our work, caregivers are among the most exploited workers that we see. I think, like the other speakers mentioned, the work that caregivers do is so important. It's so intimate and so closely tied with their clients and the families that they're supporting at their loved ones' most vulnerable moments. But that work, by its nature, is very demanding, both emotionally and physically. It's also really hard for the workers because they're isolated in homes. They don't have coworkers in the same sense that a lot of us do. And I think because of the nature of the work and just the big hearts that a lot of caregivers have, they may allow for a lot of mistreatment or that I want to make sure that caregivers know about what their rights are, because at the same time that they're caring for the loved one or for the family, they also need to care for themselves. One of the biggest issues that we see with caregivers is the issue of wage theft, that they're not properly paid for the work that they do. So something that we do want to make sure that all caregivers know is that as a general matter, most caregivers are entitled to be paid at least the minimum wage for every hour that they work. There are definitely some exceptions to that under both federal and state law, but those exceptions are relatively limited. But in terms of what an hour worked is, an hour worked is any time when the caregiver is doing work tasks for the loved one, or it can also be time when the caregiver is subject to the control of the employer, when they're just not free to leave or do their own activities. So importantly, that can include time when the caregiver may not be actively doing something for the patient, but when they're required to stay with the patient. They're required to be ready and available to respond to the patient in case the patient needs them. That time when the caregiver is engaged to wait and be there and be available is work time that should be properly compensated at least the minimum wage rate. I think the other thing that's important is that caregivers should know you can't waive your right to the minimum wage. Sometimes we see caregivers who come in and say, well, I agreed to a flat monthly rate, or I agreed to a flat weekly or daily rate no matter what the number of hours I work. It doesn't matter. Even if you agreed to that or signed a contract about that, if you're a covered employee, you're entitled to the minimum wage. It has to work out that the flat monthly rate, if you divide it by the actual number of hours you work, that it has to work out to at least the minimum wage for every hour, or there's a violation. So the minimum wage that applies depends on where you work. There's a federal minimum wage that applies across the country as a baseline. It's actually ridiculously low. It's $7.25 an hour. But lots of states, including California, where I practice, have higher state minimum wages. California's minimum wage rate right now is $15.50 an hour, so much higher than the federal minimum wage rate. And some cities have even higher minimum wage rates. San Francisco's minimum wage, for example, right now is $18.07 an hour. So it's not just minimum wage that caregivers should think about. As a general rule, employees, including caregivers, are also entitled to overtime pay. The amount of overtime that caregivers are entitled to depends on a lot of different factors. But under federal law, caregivers are generally entitled to overtime pay at time and a half your regular hourly rate for any hours worked over 40 in a work week. That's certainly true for caregivers that work through an agency. Now, there are exceptions, so you should get a consult with a legal advocate to figure out what your particular situation is. But overtime is something that caregivers should try to find out more what their rights are, because it is definitely a factor for a lot of caregivers. And in fact, in some states, the overtime protections are much more rigorous. In California, for example, some caregivers are entitled not just to weekly overtime, but in some instances, they're also entitled to what we call daily overtime, or overtime for hours worked more than 8 or 9 in a day. and in some cases even double overtime. So overtime at the rate of 2 times your regular rate if you work more than 12 hours in a day, or in some cases more than 8 or 9 hours on a 6th or 7th consecutive workday. So again, what overtime applies depends on where the caregiver works, whether they live in the home that they're working in or not, and what their duties are. So it's something that caregivers should try to get a confidential legal consult from an organization like mine or some other legal services organization to find out more what you might be entitled to. I think, we've been talking a little bit about just the demands of the work and just the hours. So many caregivers are working around the clock. They're living in the home that they're working in. And so there have been questions that caregivers have raised to us about, what kind of rest am I entitled to? Is it lawful that the employer is making me work 7 days a week or 24 hours a day? Under the federal law, unfortunately, there is not a limit to the number of days that an employer can ask you to work each week, but state laws can be different. So again, in California, we're lucky. We have really great protections for workers, relatively speaking. In California, it is unlawful for an employer to make you work more than 6 days a week, unless you're working less than 30 hours in the week overall. So in California, employees, including caregivers, are supposed to get at least 1 day of rest each week. Now, that doesn't mean that a worker can't choose to work 7 days in a row, but under the state law, they can't be required to do that. And then, as mentioned before, if a caregiver is working a 6th or a 7th consecutive day in a row, then in most cases, there should be overtime paid. So the caregiver should try to find out more about their rights to overtime that needs to be paid to them for all those extra hours. In addition, in California, for most employees, employers are supposed to give the worker, the caregiver, a 30-minute off-duty meal period for every 5 hours they work. In California, employees are also supposed to get a 10-minute off-duty rest period for every major fraction of 4 hours that they work. So in some instances, there can be on-duty meal periods or meal periods where you're still working while you're eating. They can be permissible in certain circumstances if the nature of the work demands it, but only if the employee voluntarily agrees in writing to do an on-duty meal period, on-duty meal break. So again, these kinds of rest requirements, they're not only for the health of the worker, it's also so that they're able to do the work well and provide the kind of care that's needed, that they're well rested so that they can do the caregiving that's being asked for. Another general topic that comes up a lot in the consults that we provide for caregivers, and Julian, you were asking a little bit about just abuse and mistreatment of caregivers. I think that's a really important topic, and I know you're probably going to take us through a little bit more of that. But one general concept that comes up a lot in our consults that is really frustrating for us as workers' rights advocates and also for the workers that we're talking to is that the law is actually not caught up, I think, to the protections we wish that it provided for workers. A lot of most employees actually in the country are what are referred to as at-will employees. Most caregivers are at-will employees. Folks may have heard that term before. I'm an at-will employee, but what it means to be an at-will employee is that an employer can change the terms and conditions of our work or fire us or like suspend us or change our work assignments at will. They can do that for any reason or even no reason, as long as the reason is not unlawful. As long as there's not some other law that says you can't do this for the reason that you're doing it. So what that means is that it allows for a lot of really bad management and unfair treatment. And maybe I should say, an at-will employee is different than a worker who's part of a union. So under union contracts, an employer can't just change the terms and conditions of your work or just fire you for any reason or no reason. They have to have a just cause reason, a good reason for the change or for the firing. That's one reason why unions are so important for workers, why they make such a big difference for workers, and why some employers push back against unions so much. But most of us as at-will employees, we don't have that just cause protection, and we are subject to a lot of unfair treatment and bad management. So it wouldn't be unfair, for example, if my boss belittled me and just treated me with disrespect just because my boss is a bad manager and doesn't like me and puts me down. That isn't necessarily unlawful. It's definitely unfair. It's abusive, but it doesn't necessarily create a legal claim that you can sue on. The law doesn't go in and regulate every interaction between a boss and the worker. But there are certain interactions that cross from being unfair to an abuse, bad management, to being unlawful. And that can include discrimination or harassment or abuse because of your race or your national origin or your sex or some other part of your fixed identity. And so that gets into kind of the hate issues or discrimination issues that Julian was mentioning at the beginning of the discussion. If an employer is belittling you, making verbal comments about your race or your national origin or your sex, or harassing you because of those aspects of your identity, then that is illegal and unlawful, and something that is not that you should seek a legal consult about. If you're working for an agency and some of those things are happening, then you should report it to your agency. The agency can, in some cases, be liable for that kind of race or national origin discrimination or sex discrimination if they knew about the abuse and then didn't do anything about it, didn't take any reasonable steps to address it. Mm-hmm. In some states like California, we have state laws that protect you from harassment and discrimination based on race or national origin or sex, even if you don't work for an agency, even if it's just a one-on-one relationship. Our state laws extend even to that one-on-one employment situation if harassment is involved. So you should get a legal consult and find out what your options are. It's not okay for an employer to treat you in that abusive way. There are other things I can mention, but I know I've been talking for a long time. So maybe I should turn it back to you for it.
And we've enjoyed listening to everything that you've been sharing with us, Winnie. One thing I wanted to bring up is immigration. If you could touch a little on that, please.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of the workers that we see may have immigration issues, like they don't have immigration status or are working without work authorization. But something that I want people to know is that all the rights I just talked about, the right to be properly paid, the right to be able to work in a workplace free of race or national origin or other kinds of discrimination and harassment, they apply regardless of immigration status. It doesn't matter if you are undocumented or you're working under the table, you are entitled to be properly paid for the work that you did according to the law, and also to be free of discrimination while you're doing that work. So you should talk with an attorney about it. A lot of the government agencies that enforce these wage and hour laws or anti-discrimination laws have specific protections where they don't ask about immigration status, and in fact, there is authority that that is improper. And some states have even more protections. In California, for example, it's unlawful for an employer to retaliate against you on the basis of immigration, or to lodge any kind of immigration-related threats against you. For example, we've had clients who've been caregivers who the employer told them, if you say anything to the government agencies, I'm going to report you to ICE. That kind of immigration-related threat in California is unlawful. And in fact, if the employer does that, threatens the worker in that way, that kind of abuse can be the basis potentially of a U visa, a particular kind of visa that is victims of certain kinds of crime can be eligible for. And so while we, certainly it's horrible when retaliation happens, when it does happen, sometimes actually it might, this particular kind of retaliation, immigration-related retaliation, can actually be the basis for a U visa. It's something that the worker should see an immigration attorney about to find out more information.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Julian, did you want to say something? I just have one more question for Winnie, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, please.
So you touched on at-will employee, and I think I might have mentioned earlier that really another takeaway, or something that I would like us to take away, and our listeners as well, from this conversation, is finding the balance. And when I say finding the balance, I am talking about caregivers, I'm talking about clients and agencies, caregiving agencies, because we have a lot of Fijian caregiving agencies that we're so proud of, that, coming from a small country such as Fiji to this big nation and being able to start their own businesses is really commendable. And there's so much issue there, so much deeper, but for this conversation alone, I would like to just ask. So let's say you heard what Mariani and Aquila both shared. So let's say we have an agency, like in Mariani's case, her agency. And there are certain rates that she negotiates on when she first meets the client. And so when then she comes back, they're the middleman. So then she comes back and she makes sure that she finds the right fit for that client. And then she talks to the caregiver, going through the rates, because that's what is doable. That's what they had agreed on. Now, is there any way that she can get the caregiver to sign a waiver stating that this is what you've agreed on, and you are not going to file a lawsuit down the line, years down the line, just because this is what we've agreed on as an employee and an employer, and knowing fully well that this is what the client has agreed on and can afford, because they both shared how caregiving, or what caregiving means to us. So is that even legal to sign a waiver? And not just the pay, like maybe everything else that they've agreed on, as the agreement between the agency and the caregiver.
Yeah, I think agencies have to be very careful. They are, in many instances, the employer of the worker, that it's the employer of the worker isn't it in some of these agency relationships, and it depends. We have to look case by case and the facts of the case. But if the agency is controlling pay, setting pay, controlling and setting conditions of work, then they're an employer, not just the person who's being cared for, who might direct the work being the employer, but the agency is in those instances when they're controlling the terms and conditions of work is also an employer. And so I understand that maybe sometimes agencies are trying to make things work with the family or with trying to make it affordable, but there's a baseline that has to be met. These minimum wage, overtime, these legal protections that are meant to be a floor need to be observed. They can't be waived. And so agencies need to be mindful of that and careful, even as they're trying to negotiate and help both sides. They have exposure if they're not paying the worker according to the law.
Thank you. I think that was all the questions that I had. And just before we end the session, I know Miriani and maybe Aquila and Julian have questions as well. If we could kind of just share with our listeners how to get in touch with you, or let's say someone's listening and decides, oh, maybe I should talk to Winnie. Maybe I should talk to this organization and get some help, or an agency needs that kind of help. I would like to think that that's something that we can put out there for our listeners at the end of our discussion today.
I thought Winnie's presentations and clarification, a lot of the issues out there according to the law is so valuable, and I've learned so much from many of the issues, from labor rights, economic exploitations, and also to the dignity of workers' treatment. And I am just wondering, is that, and I know that it's extremely difficult to prosecute and to go through the court of law for hate crimes and hate incidences, because there is the burden of proof is on the victims to provide evidence, and so in many cases it might not go through. And it sounds like for the workers' situation, it sounds very similar. So I was wondering if Winnie might have some recommendations as to that, knowing that there are many of these potential situations. What can a caregivers sort of prepare in advance, or correcting some situation, either to prevent from these maltreatment from happening, or to correct the certain experiences that they are enduring right now?
Yeah, I should say that some of what I was talking about is maybe less hate crimes and more just talking about unlawful race or national origin discrimination at work. I think hate crimes is like that's
extreme,
right? Or we're talking about a criminal piece, and more what I was talking about is the civil side. So claims that workers can bring themselves. It's not the state prosecuting a bad actor or a hate crime where there's criminal consequences, like jail time and that. So I should make that distinction. I mean, if a worker is experiencing harassment or abuse based on race or national origin that is to the level that a physical harm where there's criminal consequences, they should contact, the police or prosecutors, or there's government agencies that address that particular criminal piece. But in terms of the civil side, claims that you might bring against the employer for the discrimination, that you feel that's more what I was talking about earlier. But I mean, I think you're right, Julian, that a lot of times race and national origin discrimination is really hard to prove. Like nowadays, usually employers aren't stupid enough to say, oh, I'm doing this because you're from Fiji or you're Tongan or you're Asian. They come up with some other excuse, or the disrespect or the belittlement, or it may be because of your race and national origin, but they wouldn't. It's not necessarily explicit. And so it becomes really hard to prove, and for workers to prove it, you have to try to talk about how other people are treated differently who aren't from your same group, which can be really hard if you're the only worker, right? And so it is really difficult. Sometimes the legal avenue or legal claim is not an easy one or the best route. And even if you do have a viable legal claim, sometimes that process can take so long. It's can be a really frustrating and long road. All that to say that I think sometimes we do have to remind people that sometimes the answer isn't just to run and find a lawyer, or a lawyer isn't the answer, that we should look to our communities and to community organizations or to unions and to our other resources to organize and demand better respect and treatment of workers. A lot of that kind of worker organizing and community organizing is what unions are trying to do when they negotiate to have basic respect and dignity in the workplace. The challenge with organizing or getting those protections for caregivers is really high because they are spread out and they aren't in the same home. And those are huge challenges. And I think something that our communities need to think of ways, how can we support these workers better? Some of the caregivers who've come to us have been supported by community groups like Filipino Community Center or Paulis, or community groups that are supporting the worker when they talk with the employer about the abuses, or who maybe are trying to help the worker negotiate with the employer or mediate a dispute, or connecting that worker with other workers and other workplaces to know you're not alone. You're not alone in this experience. And so anyway, I think that we need to explore those non-legal options just as much as the legal options. And in many ways, maybe those non-legal options are more powerful and lasting and impactful than the legal ones, or should be paired with the legal options. But one thing I guess one last thing I would say is for workers who are experiencing abuse, or you're wondering what your rights are, you should reach out to try to get a confidential legal consult. Getting a legal consult, a confidential consult, doesn't mean that you're committing to pursue a lawsuit or a legal claim. It's just finding out more information about what your options are. And a lot of workers who come to us, they aren't ready to file a legal claim yet. They just come and they just want to know what their rights are, what their options are, and they decide for now they're not ready to do anything. But it's just important for them to know, and they can start keeping records. So a lot of workers, if they're not quite ready to file a claim, we tell them, start keeping your own record of the hours that you work, the pay that you've gotten, document the discrimination that you feel you faced. If the employer cuts your hours or changes your assignments, ask why. Ask questions about why they're doing it. If the reasons change or the reason that they give is not valid, that can be circumstantial evidence of discrimination, but the real reason is discriminatory. So I think those are some other pieces we try to ask workers to keep in mind.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that all the questions you had, Julian?
As a journalist, actually, I have a lot more, but I think it's important for Aquila and Mariani to have any follow-up question with Winnie, since they are practitioners in the field, so to speak.
It's a very interesting to listen to you, Winnie. And I am an employer, and it seems to be a disadvantage on my case. But I'm very interested to listen to what you said, because there is so many things that I'm learning today. And I'm always fighting for the rights of the caregiver and so forth.
Can I ask a question? So let's say we're talking about a 24-hour living. A 24-hour living, just because you brought up the overtime and all that. So then 8 hours is paid at, let's say, minimum wage. And then, but the person, the caregiver, is there for the 24 hours. That's the agreement. So does that mean that if the sleep time needs to be compensated, does that, and that's like going into overtime, does that mean they need to be getting paid overtime for their sleep hours?
If they are not getting at least 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep overall, yes. So we have had cases where the hearing officer or the judge has decided, yes, they were working 24 hours. And they need to be compensated for those 24-hour shifts.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Any more questions, Mariani and Aquila?
I think we have covered so much today, and the conversation has been very rich, and the advice and analysis provided by Winnie have been so valuable. And I think even people who are not in the field, but who are concerned about workers' rights, could learn a lot from the sessions. And I wouldn't be surprised if once broadcasted, you get a lot of comment and feedback, and even call from the community, because I think that there's so many people who are going through these current situations, and if need to, and we would be more than happy to do a follow up, because this issue is so it's so difficult and impacting so many people. Yeah, even for the clients. So it's not just for the caregivers, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And there are other speakers I know we could pull into, folks who are more expert, actually on caregivers specifically, who would be great speakers to invite in. But I'm happy to come back to. It's great to talk with you all.
Thank
So,
you. Mariani, did you have something else to share?
No, I am just grateful for this information. Is very enlightening for me. And I'm just listening to what you said, and I'm kind of thinking above my community as a caregiver, and I realized that then I realized that there is more abuse and more things out there, and I think part of it, most of it, because we have lots of I think the language barrier. And as for the Fijian community, we managed to speak a little bit better, especially with English, where we can always to clear up a few things in conversation at workplace. But I realized that there is more serious cases out there for abuse than sexual harassment and things like that I'm not even, thinking about, which I'm grateful for this conversation.
That could be a good start to our follow-up session. Going deeper. We could call it diving deeper. Well, thank you. Aquila, did you have anything to say before we wrap it up? Before I turn the time over to Julian to wrap this up today?
Thank you. I think I'm just thankful for this opportunity to discuss this important topic with you all. It's enlightening coming from Winnie's what she shared with us today. It's an eye-opener, and it's something that we need to address at this level. Thank you.
Thank you, Aquila. Thank you, Julian. Over to you.
I would like to thank you, Una, for partnering with us to be part of this session, and as well as Winnie and your organization support for you to participate. It's been so educational and so informative for this topics, and also to spotlight the Pacific Islanders communities, which is often being seen, not being seen, and invisible, and not only to highlight the communities, but also highlight the challenges that they are going through, and that the support for these communities shouldn't be just within the Pacific Islander community, but also from other communities as well. And I think the umbrella of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders should also be rallying in support of the challenges of these communities, and also to acknowledge the contributions that the Pacific Islanders have been contributing to this society, and particularly in the healthcare sectors, which is often overlooked. And these are the frontline workers, and helping so many families and seniors. Because it's ironic that caregiving is such a difficult work, but also it's one of the most underappreciated and least paid, and also for exploitation. So I think this has been so valuable, and I just wanted to appreciate and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Ina ka wakalepu, wakambula talitukani ve kiamunina siama tiku mai na kawini kua samai thapa tiku yana ve tala noa au wakambauta ni lewu sarnaka enda wulida mai kina mai nda wakawini vinaka tiko kina Ethnic Media Services na kina mai teka wuta ki tiko na ve tala nongo ka wakanuni tiko na Radio Bula Duavata ni teka wuti ko ni ve tala nongo na kena ve tala no teki tiko na ulutanga mimbi tali tunga o yana kena sangai tiko me tarobi na ve wakararao take Stop the Hate ya lewu ya e wuti ko nga mai na ve wakandundui take background ni taka ve wakandundui take wakautamata sen racial prejudice ko ya na ve tala no ya mai liutaka tiko Mr. Julian Doe liutaka tiko ko na tambano ya and Ethnic Media Services mai wakai tawitiko kina da waka Winawinaka wakalebu be irto mai na Asian Law Caucus Miss Winifred Kau ka wakatelanga kina wana i tauke ni Caregiving Agency na Prestige Home kia mai Petaluma Mrs. Mereani Kanivere kia Aquila Wira winaka wakalebu to rangatau and nomonro wakai tawi mai na vi talanongo wakautuko ne a lewu sarnaka enda wulida mai kina ka keto we wakongeti tiko yani kia wakai tuna taro oni via kilana ke ni sau me baleta tiku na dondono bakadakadaka se na bakatamata dakadaka se na vi kataliso me baleta na nonda samaitu kanda mai sasanga tu ena vono le vongo Amerika ninge bako tanga mai ni wala mai na no ni bakatataroya bulu binaka denro makita bosota ni uningai tombo katok ngamai na buni vital noya ya senga na lenga au suriti kemani bongini kuai sana ngai beauty kani ana nito YouTube channel o ana radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel ana ngai beauty ngani kina na vital nongo kina balambala senga ni oni ngandra moni na rongo na vana ya ua na vital nongango ningai vangarayani and Radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel. Winaka bakalevu les tokona na vi tomani tikumai vi tokoni tikumai kena vi tala noa and na kavi ni kua dona kai kutavake mai o miskau na U visa au kilani goendo na ulu tanga talngaro ni tona vi tala noa kina ka na sasanga tiko na Radio Bula Duavata mena dona singa mena ngole mai dona immigration attorney ka rawani na mai veva kararamata ki tiko member letter na U visa baleta ni kilani sa tiko talangai bunga kenda e rawa da senga tu nikila ni rawa ni na rawa na nomu pepa e na U visa ya na kena veva kararamataki kena ve tambana taleso ni sema tinga mai kena Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti kenda vata tiko mai sa mai watonga tini kawana miniti me 5 na kaloko 7 na tini na miniti na nonde wa sininga na wakarotaki and ve moniti ka wakatoka i tiko ai ana dhawe ka lawa ke rono me ve tal no tiko ni kina ke Mrs. Titilia na tini ve toko ni tiko kina na JJ's Food Shack mai Santa Rosa. And Radio Bula Duavata wakambula tiko ani vi kemni ke desara na sema tiko mai na kavini kua ke wakai sangi matani ngona ni sema tiko mai ke na Radio Bula Duavata kera tunga ke rani uninge wase toka ani na nonda wata na nonda ve tala noa dona share dona like muri ke to tali tunga mai follow us and abibu ke sar tiko bakalevu and na nonda mai beba ka raramata ki tiko na nonda mai beba ka ungeti beba ka alongaga ta ki tiko and na be tambani nonda bula ke de sarve tikini nonda bula ke de sarva kambimbi ninda sambimbi tu mai nonda banua kanda sangole mai kina vura levu ronyo kaya sengola ngai Amerika vekem do talanga mai Australia New Zealand vakata la kina vekem do mai England levu na ka ke vakanda vakasama take toto wata tu dan bibi mai mai to ya vuta kitiko na bula and ndua tale na vanua karau ninda bibu ke sartiki na vakalevu sabatongo itini karua na miniti me 5 na kaloko na sera kataravango Berninda rongoda na nonda sera katarava da te rongoda mande sona i tukutuku ni viboli.
Na dhawi kalawa ke Mrs. Titilia na itini. Wei tala nota ki kena na ulutanga bimbi ka dau renre na kena wei tala nota ki sewa sei ana matana lewu. Ulutanga ni tosu ki liu. Wei waka ungeti ka dau wei la beti. Rongode na wei akabi ni tu siti ni 7 tini karo na tini kalima na miniti wei kemando i viti. 7 na tini kalima na miniti wei kemando i California ana wei singa moniti. Ana wei to koni ni JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Rongode na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti kenda watamai.
Doyan Robina ka naman raman na ita. Do samba di ba kusa-kusa iwe?
Yanra na ita. Kita sili katalaw mande na Orange Lounge.
Maleka. Kura san ba di kata-kata pinakasarto nga toboy simbang bakaw. Gay way dala tu kinambat.
Koe serangan gori. Sono ngono santa pinakat serangan na kenta kakana.
Di na to zoko. Kaya kito sa berata ni baga singalebu, kito sa nagalibu baga kabi ngaya ni kina.
Na Orange Lounge, katalaw baga singalebu siya baga kabi, e baraw tayo ito baga manggo sanggay totoka na buno ni kana. May namenda to ito ni ti, kanay baga singalebu siya baga kabi, may baka na baga sekera, na sui, ikataruteke, roro baga lolo, kaya na vida tale. Giraraw mo kila na menu ni singoya, na Orange Lounge, Tolo-Tolong 2, Orange Street, Santa Rosa. And dua tala na tamang ni Vingarabi ni Divine Group of Companies. Dola may na walang kaloka na mataka, kina walang kaloka anang bongi moniti kina singatambo na Orange Lounge. Tolo-Tolong 2, Orange Street, Santa Rosa.
Kasar nga. Paniray na tokongo, nagkenay-ray-ray. Dua nga na rupo ni Bunikaw, at dua bayran ng tingit-taki, o Reverend Aminio Balen Rock-and-Rock.
Tama kamay na nung programo baka madawa na toso ni ngauna. And Vingarabi ni City Veni Raturla. Singa buglulu ni Simona Bayan na tinamniti may kiamo ni Amerika. Singa lutulebo ni Simona tinikantua na tinanamaniti may kiamo ni May Viti. And Vito Koni ni Divine Group of Companies. Maolimat kay na San Bruno Cavaba. namaka and a Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco met Kauti Keda Vata Mara. Hai, kemo do bakando tunga mai viti. Sa baka matalaw na naman do kobati. Sa lemo na kemo do tinika na tinimbulu makau na bisikete na rewa bata. Red cow, whoopoo. Da sa kusi masarangan na ikatungo. Gamay tutala na kenurnibondo kenambele. Pai, correct. Da boleh mai be.
Oi, doce que tenho nikila. Que to bulbuli ngamay na maulimat. To ngango i Santa Rosa.
Mai be?
Na maulimat, wele.
Doko na nonda business na ngoli tau kei Amerika. Doko sa mai. Do mai boli na maulimat. 4525 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2 and 3, Santa Rosa, California. Yavalata, Dionangay Valata and Radio Bula Duavata. Weitalono te kina na bika membaleta na nondong bula. Mai weira na kanandao mai na tambana ni bula so. Nasi na puniwai. Promoven na bana kaloko na Vata Avenue City and na veito ko ni Lincoln Heritage Life Insurance. Na kamba ni Life Insurance kanganiti kanda na kaiwiti Amerika. JJ's Food Shack. E tigo kedi kina na kakana boka biti me bakana kokonda. Lobo benga ni ngai kani doito na bundi ng dalo sa tapioca. Na kakana boka malangi me bakana steak baka elo ka kina coleslaw. Wee! Na karitoa sa wadha badina na kani kana-kana. Kaya tigo talaga na nono specials and na lomo ni mga dawa. Daw tamba and na Facebook. Na doy ni tiwa ya na bani mandray pai kay na bugatale. Gawin na JJ's Food Shack. View Valley mo Billy Jean Street, Santa Rosa, California. Karo talaga nito dili mo yang may Santa Rosa, may yato sa rani kinavato. Giritirito sana kinavitu sa mabitu tolo dio tolo dundo limon. JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California.
Na Radio Bula Duavata sama e votonga walu na miniti me 5 na kaloko. Tau sabi si viti ko na ono na yawo be kim do me viti me be sa tiko na nitongo na sena daylight savings and bongi ni Bakarawai. Bongi ni Bakarawai matakadaki ni singatambo mai malaw to kina bakalele na ngona ni mode o wakasama takai ndabakila ni malabu valele na ngona ni mode yo ke bukai ko taka tu to bate tinga na yawo ni mode baleta bek nga ni sa balabu na bongi balabu na buto leka na singa sena ngona dari tiko kina na rarama ia wakadu di vinaka tiko yani oni taka ni totoka tu nan raki se mania sai buru dava oni se tiko me kina na kavini kua na watina 5 ni tini na miniti kera na mai vital no tiko yani kina ke Mrs. Titilia na tini na non de wasininga na doronga di tiko na bia kavini moniti na dawi kalawan do talinga na ulutanga binaka kera na mai vital no tiko yani kina na kavini kua sore tiko ni sama tiko mai na ono na kaloko do talitunga na nonda bulangin dokai go endo na turanga ni tonga ya dana tiko o kamida sweet Nina danagai mai wakambula tiko ve Mr. Sweet na kavini kua na ono na kaloko kana mai wasia tiko koe endo ngana porokaramu karato biuta wata tiko mai ongoa na osanga tingo mi unreta dake na Pacific Islander Cultural District koe na erto tikongo aserto na Pacific Islander i San Francisco. Erto tikongo i San Francisco senga ni sama tiko ke na Regional Pacific Islander Task Force ko ya au surit kemninda mai ronga demanda se dava na mai wase tiko bat ki kanda o Mr. Sweet and kavini ko ya ni oti na ono ninga i sama tiko nga mai ya ngono mantangango ono bia kambula tiko ya ni na sera katarava we kamni ke de sarana sama tiko mai semania sai buru dava ni sama tiko mai kina taka ni bula binaka tiko ni taka talanga ni tosa binaka tiko na kena garavi na itabi resore tali tiko ke bakau ni adalata na vital noe na kavini kua mamonganga sar na vital noa baka bimbitiko na nonda dondonu baka tamata daka ke bakau ni adalata ningai sikobayani na vital noa batanga ya ningai mbiani na bongi ni kua and Radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel usrit kimni mo ningai sema ni kina ningai subscribe kina nito YouTube channel mo ni na rongoda kina baka binaka ningai obambote ni na baka bura baka sama ka rau talangan yun iba ko tumay na naman iba katataro de rau ni nagay indo talikina na vital no kerto may na Asian Law Caucus ken Ethnic Media Services na sera kataraba no beba kambula tukani kinongovi peni rokondiva nimbula vinaka Wakatala kina vi denra makita vinaka wakalewa na sema tiko mai na kavini kua nimbula vinaka mai keli mata kimbau wakanuni vinaka tiko ane vi kimrau laisa nimbale ndombula vinaka meno sori wakatala kina vi piti wanga vinaka wakalewa na sema tiko mai Steve Murphy nimbula vinaka mbeta wanokula ni sema tiko mbeka mai vei wakambula tali tingani vi les tokona vinaka na vi tokoni tiko mai na kavini kua John wanokula vinaka wakalewa na sema tiko mai ndombula vinaka talanga mai na mau limat wakanuni vinaka tikani vikimdo waka vetamani mai Santa Rosa bula vinaka mele wakanuni vinaka tikani vikimdo minandawa wakatala kina ve laisani ambaki sema tiko mai ve sista onitaka ni bula vinaka tiko wakatala kina ve vuki raf bula vinaka matelita seni kuradiri wakanuni vinaka tikani Rai Marcelino bula vinaka sista wakanuni vinaka tikani vikimdo na vitukani mai Smith Ranch kikimuni kia sara na doni vengaravi tuku mena Smith Ranch ene kavini kua bula vinaka Talei Bowman wakanuni vinaka tikani vikimdo na vetamani mai Santa Rosa wakatala kina ve Lasarusa tokana sute ni bula vinaka sista ini se ngera tambua vengana vono ni se matiku mai kina ene kavini kua wakatala kina ve turanga neita bula vinaka waliki satakala au nitaka ni onro bula vinaka tiko ana batamba vinaka na se matiku mai ene kavini kua wakatala kina ve Diani Moto Koroi vinaka wakalewa na sema tiko mai ni bula vinaka Nick Leoni Langi wakanuni vinaka tiko yani na sasanga na madhango wakatala kina ve Balts Rose ni bula vinaka don bula vinaka na sema tiko mai Aloha Land Luce Leoni Lovo ni bula vinaka sista wakambula talitunga ve tukai Benji ke Serra da Kautavatava ni bula vinaka John Mbatiwale vinaka na sema tiko mai na kavini kua sang talani ngula da vitikino Lavinia Rova bula la wakanuni vinaka tiko yani vikimdo waka matubu vale mai viti sang talani ngula da vitikino Mela senimbua ni wasotia Mela wakanuni vinaka tiko yani vikimni wakatala kina ve Mrs. Rosa Ratun don bula vinaka waka bula talitunga ve Luisa Uliviti ni bula vinaka Katie Mere vinaka na sema tiko mai Bill Sau ke kimdo ke sara na sema tiko maingoria na City Level San Francisco bula vinaka mesa ke ndraniatu vinaka wakalewa na sema tiko mai nandua bula vinaka wakambula tikani vikimdra ke mbumbu Joe mai Peraluma wakatala kina ve Nambure Valu wakanuni vinaka talitunga yani Tevi Tavasu vinaka na sema tiko mai na kavini kua senga talani ngula da vitikina Serra da Lata bula vinaka sista wakanuni vinaka tikani vikimdra mai na City San Francisco wakatala kina ve Ndiuna Leo Bukibuki vinaka wakalewa na sema tiko mai ngori mai Marysville wakanuni vinaka tiko yani vikimdo nitaka ni ndo bula vinaka tiko wakatala kina ve Irena Tema bula vinaka tau nitaka ni onisa wakadingu vinaka tiko ni ali sarangito mbeka siyo ni angole mbeka na sota ni netball wakanuni vinaka talitunga yani ve Suliana na Novu Lui bula vinaka sista nitaka ni oni bula vinaka tiko ndo sa dingu vinaka sauti na kena mengaravi tiko na songo na madhao sauti au nitaka ni sandua na dingu vinaka na madhao ngoe se vadava Otungo runa miniti me 5 na kaloko and Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti Keda Vata tiko mai no minito kaningo una vuninda kua ni bula vinaka.
Isenga inambe loke o matani singa biutu alutu memole kiwa ima abakamuria sombudu na waini mbukariba nasalani waria unakingole kina koronia sana au sana sivia kibaleni mbula lebumai uningawa meula kidhurukina Luciana oro, basima kembulo mere pasivitalenga mevuniwai nangaseo sakiusa isalewelei divana marama nasiaratiko bolekina nondro tawitobo erui kamida oyandi luciana oro basimama kembulo mereia oyandi luciana oro basimama kembulo mereia oyandi luciana oro basimama kembulo mereia oyandi luciana oro basimama kembulo mereia
na dhavu ikalawa kei Mrs. Titilea na itini. Wei talanota ki kina na ulu tanga mimbi ka daun rendre na kena wei talanota ki sewa sei ana matana lewu. Ulu tanga ni tosu ki liu. Wei waka ungeti ka dau wei la beti. Rongode na wei akawi ni tu siti ni sivu na tini karoa na tini kalimana miniti wei kemando i viti. Sivu na lima na tini kalimana miniti wei kemando i California ana wei singa moniti. Ana wei tau koni ni JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Rongode na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti Keda Vata mai. JJ's Food Shack. E tiku kedi kina na kakana boka biti me bakana kokonda. Lobo benga ni ngai kani doitu na bundi nan dalo se tabioka. Na kakana boka malangi me bakana steak baka eloka kena coleslaw. Wee! Na karitoa sa wadha badina na keni kana. Kaya tiku talangana nono specials and loma ni mga dawa. Daw tamba na Facebook. Na doi ni tiwa ya na bani manray pai kaya na bugatale. Go na JJ's Food Shack. View Valley mo Billie Jean Street, Santa Rosa, California. Pero talagang rito dili mo yang may Santa Rosa, may yato saray ni Kina Vato. Girit-rito sana Kina Vitu Saiba Vitu Tolo Dio Tolo Dundu Limono. JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Dendram beka nang wala ni Kibalilo tino puko ni oso-oso pakadadaka. Sendra-kendra kita beka na itos-tos nimbula, kuha nilenga sinuingaw-gawa. Nana magi-mai kina programo warotaki. Mai vera tau na New Methodist Christian Fellowship USA. Nongu chisu, nongu banua. Rongode na vima manione na kabini bugu lulu bei kemando e California. Vima mani dua na singilewu ni lotu lewu bei kemando e viti. And a Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco. Me Kauti Keda Vata mai.
Bula binaka ni Matthew, ni sawa kuskusibe. Isa ni bula binaka. O se vivi mandongo kina maoli mat. Elei taka kina endona ni to pakataka kana lelai. Yo leu kutaka pakatotolo. Ni bernir to yave ani na bulangi. Oi, o dia bakasanga. Erto bakasanga telanga ora to. Sarara sarna. Go enta so mga nakakana. Ese ni ta so manakena bakanga takina olo. Oi, okay. Nagsaraman da kilatiko.
Maulimad, Valima Rualima Montgomery Drive, Suite 2 and 3, Santa Rosa, California. Veitartara sarani kina nabani telefoni 125 Rualima Saiba, Vitu Tolu 5 Vitu. Ene kena itugu matalalai.
Beba kasar na. Oni rai do tokongo, na kena rai. Dua ngana rukuni buni kau, e dua beiran ng tingitaki, o Reverend Aminio Balen Rock.
Tama kamay na nung programo baka madawa na toso ni ngauna. E na bengarabi ni City Benny Raturla. Singa buglulu ni Simona Bayan na tinamniti may kiamo ni Amerika. Singa lutulewo ni Simona tinikantua na tininamaniti may kiamo ni May Viti. E na veto koni ni Divine Group of Companies. Maolimat kay na San Bruno Cavaba. Namaka and a Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco with Kauti Keda Vata mai.
Sengan dina ni karaw-rawan na taka-taka waka kekiba. Ia endona kainda wipu ke kabaka mamanta taka tuna bengarabi. O ia ke tuna kendito kakana. Laika na dalo na bisikete na reo bata na sunbells e tinimbulu makau. We kenda tuna senga tiko nindraiva se senga ni waka motoka kandau dren-dren na tutu beto seaki. Erto satu wakarao na Divine Pacific Food Mart may Sacramento merto talaveani na nung ni boli-boli. Rawa-rawa sara. Witartar ngayani na taliboni diwan dua ono toluba diwa ono saibarua merto bakarotaka katalada may nanong ni boli-boli ena kenagona totolo tuwa.
Divine Pacific Food Mart, Viturua Diwawalu Franklin Boulevard, Sacramento, California. Namba di taliboni diwan dua ono toluba diwa ono saibarua. Ertong garap talangan ni kanalay waka sumburi ani nanomu yaya. May nanonor to stoa kinanomu mati ni katumba.
Pena Radio Bula Duavata via wakabinavinaka tiko ve ira kede sarana ve kambani so karsamai ve toko ni tiko mai rongo di tiko yani na non rei tuku di ve boli ana non to pato Radio Bula Duavata sakali undina tiko no wakabinavinaka nomini ve toko ni karawa ni ndau mai rongo di tiko kina na non to programo and ve kabini moni tiki no wakarombuka o ya mai na tolu kina vitu na kaloko rautalanga me dando sarsarawabu kikina kilana madao saoti oni asaraba tiko na wakarombuka rongoleani na turanga rua tupe ke watisoni tambua na nonro be bakasarsar taki ani weekenda i Seattle dona kau mantanga ukurumbuitaka ni da saravir tu rawana dorobo kara sa soko tiko mai na wanga soko tiko na wanga ni siwa kanga utura rao ya ni ra vondo mai ra lako me miriko te arasanga me vondo i wanga me rangi lako tiko rangi li siwa ka vinaka na da waka vinaka tiko e na non ra wawoki ro waka sarasarta ki kenda tiko mai na vi kaiso na wakatan lakina na vi stoa karasali tiko mai Seattle ra boli takatali tuka na kenda kakana au waka sama takasartali na madhawa ka keto ala ki tiko boli kina sarasara boli kina mai Alaska o kelani vunga talanga vi kemani o ni tali takatali tunga na non tali sarasara Alaska yung wile dawa nga mi wali va sarasarta ki kenda mai na stoa ka tiko mai Alaska baleta na kai tali kina na stoa ya ni erto talano takorto nindua na kai tonga erto ato ya butaka na stoa ya wakamen do toto Vata ke ditu ndina nga ninda sangati ko na nondingu me kuni vaya me kuni da to te ko nga to ke lava kana na kena da vutin do anda ve wali takatu na bisini sini to ke duringa mentavo e wakatali tu nga kina rto na tonga e wakata toto Vata ke ditu ko na Manoasa Pasifika ayana ka rto talno takamai rto na tiko mai Alaska rto tu kono rto na tonga go rto e mai to ya nga dola nga bakalele na stoa o tinga rto sa seng ni madala rto sa sini rauni didi baka se dava yongo sa didi baka tiko endua na turanga ni valangi bakawati na watina na marama ni okela na kai in the Filipino oro saranga ro sa didi baka tiko na stoa ya na ni stoa okela ni indo na senga ni vulangi kina mai Santa Rosa o Mikong o senga mandeni kila rto ve wakani si senga ya na ni stoa mai Alaska na Mikong voli takitu kina na kaka na kede toro ni waka sama taka me waka ngatu sa wakila tu i California gai na kai taleki na ya nindangai rea ni vango na tamate rea tu ni saranga itumba rea tu ni ana merlaka ni reli voli ya saranga na stoa katiko mande i Anchorage o sang mande ni kila na via sa Alaska tali so au ngile dava mende tu ali sar me kina ya nisa na rei tiko mai gore sa Wawa tiko Mrs. Titilia ni tini kono via kenda waki koe tiko e na nonda veitala noa e na nonda porokaramu e na kawi ni kua me waka e na rongothi tiko e na via kawi ni moniti mai na o tina 5 e na tini na miniti ka vi toko ni tiko kina na JJ's Food Shack.
Nada mui kala ke Mrs. Titilia na tini e na veitoko ni JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. And a radio Bula Duavata, San Francisco.
Wakavinaka tiko kina JJ's Food Shack, around in the mai vetal no tiko kina, and anonde wasining on a vatongo. Bulavinaka Mrs. Naitini?
Iya, ni bulavinaka una, papolitika ni go inovato, gaive mirimir sartonga lauda na kavinikoa.
Totoka ia na bonge o kinda tala mandanga ni o tiko i wale o sarongo da ni sato tono udai wikito in Newark na South Bay ia e totoka tona raki sa ko mandanga ni kelando tuku ni to kenda da sini maro takrao in tona kai ni katakata na singan da complain ni tono udan da complain bata da complain wasa kunru tonga ia vinaka wakalevu na nomuninda we waka ndo wangalalata ki kemani mai na we akavini moniti ka rao ni ndo mai we talno kina e na nonde wa siningo na Vata na kavini kua kilani o ni a wakarita ka tiko ndo na ulutanga bimbi mendoro na we talno kina we kemani na sengei reidi Mrs. Naitini wakandua au sureti kemani moni ngai sikova yani na neto YouTube channel o yana Radio Bula Duavata YouTube sa levu na nero we talno embitu ka ni kina kerondo we talno tiko na via kabini moniti nagai waka ni nagai rongo di Mrs. Naitini kina marama ni vei sa ambaki vida i Amerika e sa tiko kede ni kina ni kua sanda na vei tal no mandangai na vuku ni ulutanga ka nanumo Mrs. Naitini menda na vei tal no tiko kina ni kua ulutanga bimbi e waka me na tarawa ka lebu sara na bula ni matavu vale kina bunga weekenda
Pina kauna iyo ba bilibina kataka ni total na ngonongo mentaro vital no takina na ulutanga go estianga ni ulutanga e bo nda vital no tak sa vital no te baka bunga estianga ni weekend to ike Amerika ukila ina viesai mai viti watala kina na vivono talanga era tikino irna nonda irna itoke angona ulutanga ni domestic violence yo bernyu lakot na ulutanga ya una obe ba nakatatalana madha no tikin sanangor num desasa tikin ni sanoze ya lakan dana lotika rotikin rona betin tal rongal me viti tal kolibuso che non rendini vale ro abitum beriti na marriage conference na uklan madha rosa wotti ye oba nakta kanyo lakarana lutun no oba nakta tala livuna na tukutuku bina kai wasia ko weekend na vika mendaronya takawa mendaronya takawa kenta lete bulutanga tiku na marriage conference na bulu pakawati ro abitum beriti kin ela kabati kin na bulutanga telinga message wasia ko na no ibelot yo una na vuno vena katkin mi vitala tekna na talena ulutangor domestic violence sena non rando sotava na viva kama potaki sona sena viva kara taki na lomani vale quando ya de tico en penro non robio meluai otamba ke tina sen dona viva tini au kilani dona kisi anga ya nga kilana be mada sawo timbe ka se mada ni mure quando rei ni mati sarkino tineni ngoni Waya tala na puno bina katem darukota di listal me na talnong na bulutangan ko ni domestic violence baleta sama ilenga tiko elevo na maramatina en buku ni tobako ko e bakador tiko na lamani vale iyo bernintoru reida ya ona via bitara let me just put this on the side we una no do da kavana training dona kaundo bitangongo ni dortarango domestic violence dortarati kono matbo vale yo na bena katame bitingo sana issues on the side me ona renyo o iko talana ga taka tegi kono ndor bitala tikina
totoka
iyo kela ni amo val na matbo vale sona ka mendare na dava e buna tiko ni ravati kina go dava ra toko ko tikina se dava sa levu kina na mate me na bula ni matabo vale se dava e levu kina na matabo vale marriage breakups se divorce rates na dava yo una biti tiko go sona ka mendara ni reida on the side if you can just pack this en duango sona ka endo bokabuna go red mingo kona focus on the family ba clear on Tino James Dobson rondo Victor Vale wike livna na on tori information set bakali may virongo dona karot kuna tiko rauna vika erendo bakabuna na tiko ya bavala stiana vindu stan dona matu vale ndo non rombula ba vi malero vetin fading commitment and dona vuna kena karua do talengona unresolved conflict ya ken karua do tale na bula bagi lawe financial problems ken kava communication okay that's one of the important ones communication ken kalima sexual struggles ken kon parenting issues nirsati ko ngone atala ren do na kando bo na bipo sa kidambe kasi na bipo molidae between a couple parenting issues non story sa tunod tiay parenting issues in-law issues where non the in-laws atal nga na rin iba kabunat ko na valen do na matubo vale addiction the cloud to na libo na tanggal addiction na duit ko tamaye o kwa na maram o kwa na leo bat ki kon tangani ro mo imbu na bat na matubo vale they also have addiction issues tas kelaki na mateni na tabako na tabatal daw tanganin daw elewa daw kasi libo na kaya sing ni maro imbak ni lavo but ken kadion infidelity ya sona root causes kwa na ribo ko metti ko na vale matu vale you can pack that on the side for now iyo dorre madama benakat dorre de lustal madama kisin go kwa ngaya ba viti samay bakasar na bin bulu be tineni ngone nakanga wili kana Fijian ona ni kwa na maramango e vati kun kana luben raw bukit talti ko tineni ngone kila root kun bakana mbaki around 30s late 30s to 40s anon rembak nimbola sangai otineni ngone elesumena takataka lesumena takataka sangai me idun rubinga ambaletini bermaye bermaye Ia koe langa ia, mai wauna kina, na viva mate sa rea sar na mate, na moku, na mavoa, na mate, rasangai reitu na ngoan, rato ngane vango berto sarava tu na vikaya dongo e angona una mendari do ove ko te takmena na kissing ko mai biti o kere busto ti berto na matu vale ke ka ravarong te mai it has become a public issue some na local news mai biti sa klai brubur ia endon menda vital notaka baleta ni daw baleta e sa tiki na bula ke na mate
dina
ni do na matu vale weekend na kawito ke ke bakal dari dito ko na bunong ya bakal tutu me kantone koro ortongo endang ke taranga ibe na bunong ratu kino erna lini korna ngone tikin na valango
dina
endo tikya erite tiko na kaya bitingo o ya na una au kilando don menda vitan na taweli na matangali kisi bango esa ya tiko na viva mate ena nonda matabu wale mai biti ada kila ando tanana kisi ke weekend na kawito ke endor menda vitan na ta baleta me munduki me koni da kana itongo baleta senga ni no de tomo na viva mate
dina
ni da kai tiko ni da lotu esa ive na loloma quando tu mer me kina Iyo ko ya una vida na ka una viwa senga ni biko ya ke buka dona ka una na ka tumo wari ta kamai dona kis na stats nga usare da ra mai viti ambita mayo minister for women recently domestic violence cases may viti within 6 months from August 22nd to February 2023 sa ti ko na helpline aranda ungire ni kina kaya karangan reba na bibo ko ira erndo stop ting domestic violence and na helpline go walnan raw lima sa ka walu na calls between that 6-month period o ko sita may 22nd to February this year 2023 858 calls tolu sa ka walu na pasyente ng giria domestic violence tin kabito na pasyente o ira errarida ni dakati ko sarang giriterto So I think that's a good sign. Nira sara ni respond. O ira na tiko abulita na puno eta katikin na viva mabuat tagmango. Era sara ni girta na helpline ko mer kerbi buke kinai. Ustana bitang mande kavi ko una ke banto na kavi o tia mai. Ni reni wasia mengo
Vinaka valebu. Ni dina na kani bakarita ka, that's a good sign na lebu ni na wili lebu kara sabi tartar tikani rabakanga tak tikani na helplines na number telefon ni ai kito vital no tak sartiko baka lebu ken na vital na nungu itokani baka biwatini na lenga ka ni kutada ke mengo membaliter to na matubali o tomana talingana no na kirwi bosotio Mrs. Naitini na ni roma vital no takatiko na bula ni matubali bikem ni na weka sa we was takitingo merao ni na vivu ketiko mera ni kiro na buke talitiko so ka lako sartiko na vital no na mother sawati Mrs. Naitini me baleta na kisingo e vida na taro basica da ke mai dua tuko ni mekena ni senga ni senge matai ni ngona ni lebu na kisivango ngele ya bango misali ya sar na mate se ya sar na mabo lebu e senga ni matai ni ngona sando ya tiko mai sando ya tiko mai io o tia sanga e rotorungia na nungu tokania io bakada ni sa ya tiko mai ya vaya na daba e senga ni o tinga i kila sandundun me sa kila i kia koia me sa vangalala tiki koe mai me sa vangarambulai io ngai rotaru tiko mai kina rotorungia tiko mai e kina dua ka lako duru matalengana lenga vata vau ya io ni vango ne kenda ndui tu au sanga i wasia ni sobe kenda e rawa e dando nui deitu na elonta ni dekila ke bakau na biungo o yora ni rawa ni ngarabia nga bakate kiawe levo na ngona ondorongo da ni rendre na non biu bakam bimbiti ko erna marama rendre na non biu baleta matai erndo santo mambulandina sarangara rebaka na watinra sa tunga na non rebaka sama ke bakau na lakongo o koe na rawanga ni na kuni au na rawanga ni na lida kabia ndona ka sa tu mantanga o sa tiko mantanga baleta na ngona tikongo na baka na nanu tiko beira ni na senga ni na lead me vasarea na dhunru ni tamandra to se o tangane ya Dia kena kerotali do lebu erasenga ni wakaindrendre mer na biu baleta nira loma lenga takir na ngone. O di tali mena lenga ravir na ngone. Se me una lenga ravir wakadava na ngone. Yo na senga ni rauni na venga ravi do tali ni tiko sartunga na wakanana nu e tiko ni I have to stay, I have to make this work. Au wasam bumbu ili takngo, go na nongu na watingo, go orto na lubengu, e senga ni tu e na nonravaka sama na nonravaka nananu, and it is not okay to leave, na vaka sama ya. Se mani vaka dava na rakin-rakita ni mbula, era lako duruma na nonrambula wakawati, na nonravaka sama e sa dito nga vera, that I have to make it work. O eu sa wasam bumbulingo, o eu sana tiunga ike, o sana sanga me na binaka tiko na ni rumbulan. Dina nga ni lako duruma tiko na bika drenre, na mosi, na tangi, na rarawai. Ia konga ne andan duindui au nui taka ni wikiam ni na lako duruma tiko na drenre vau ya. Ni raunio ni na yada na ngono ni na kila that it's time to leave. It's not okay. Atuko na biao in dona nito bishop. Gona nung sa ngoli buao sa litarongi ko ay. Yung ngadreba na bakasala bakasala hindi na bakatama. Sangge tuko na dona po sangge tuko no ko biao. Ko no biao siya talangayani o kilani so bakera la kuduruma tunan rendre. Me bakala kuduruma na maramango kay na rauni kai undolu bakondolu na maramera la kuduruma talitonga. Sangge tuko no ko biao. Nakalo embiti kenda mike menda mai marau. O koe senga ni, o koe kenda lubea na kede na tamanta wakalo malangi. Senga ni mbito miki o koe dona ngone, dona lubea na, e mai rarawa. Iyo, endon dono menda na lakuduruma na ndrendre, senga ni nona inaki, nona ituba, menda na mai rarawa tiko e na nonda mbula todoko, ninda sasanga tiko menda na listali wai. He put us here to be happy. Ko saranga ya sangi buki au sangi bakandi takaviao that it's time to leave.
Vina kauna no mo se mingore na tiko rete ngoros oranyola kuma le kera bakasama. Ya bisal bindo sul me bikono bakasala ngore iyo ko yang ane astaru imbimbi ngona kina menda bi tanno takno utango ambate sono marang. Ko saranga ena leve ka ena rere irsa sindran takabantana ka sarno mangawira. This will be my life, Sana nunggu bulat tunggu, Iya, minta rete tikon mena lotu. Kalau kenta kede anda tuh mai, enta tikin nonton bulan na kai viti, o kenta na itu ke na lotu, Nit santa sarawa tikon ni sa tosa deke tikon na kisi ni vima kama kota kalau mani vale viti. Kelas tandun mena na taruh ni kenta tanga o kenta enda lotu tiko, Kenta lotu di kelas, enda don mena sa rei dango sana nonton bulan vima liwai, O kenta na tamata menda sari dan nada menda don menda rinda kau. Kala dina ninda laku tiga luti me bokia nonton bula bakayalo. Ia estendar mendana laku I lomala ni uno kenta bula tiga bura-bura. We need to be happy on this in the tiga bura-bura. Endong dito ngabi on blood spray. That will be done on earth. As it is in heaven, Kembali menda Kauti heaven may buru-bura, and don't menda maru takiko no the tikong go buru-bura, cause a kila and your wife nakatiko no tiko roto with an taltana with the marriage conference, near to Sare the Roi, saya boleh tibali monobuli matabuai. Estando don menda tuzaki, sa rota nangalu tiko, dona kabina ko maru takvital talkuli usumtuna, sa rota nangalu, you got to speak up, as a Christian and fight evil, Menta musik na raka ni betul na viva mate na viva rotaki au via kotelis butal nga mayuna na lutu eselema do kila ni dole pepteso pikiro ili na lubikira irando kono ngone merle pepteso like Christ ning erando kavin kede ti kono ke pakanda uli kana kanyi pepteso taki ti kono vol misere na himno eva mata teke tu bemna kange do kavi bokende kede na leni wa wakoso E non dei tavi medana tumber na ngone ngai sudia e sinon roite ngana tumbe e non tumberitiko e no vavuli ba Kristo e sono vavuli ba lotu quella che metti na loloma lo che metti non datiko wat ba viokani meda velo manitiko yo sai be ya I would like to remind us again okay na lotu esele lebe lutu ke tali e tiki kia ndona ka ndon menda vivo ke taka waka community waka song lutu ndona ngwane ngai sudu mai menda na tumbere tiki me klana wa vulva kristo and when I see what is happening now in Fiji no sa tiki vivo mateu irna young couples ngo and live ni zunru e tuna tika ndona ka una ndona vuno ikia e sa mai lulunga tiko no tumbere tiko irna luventa o irna dorbo irna tangani watangaki na weekend na irna luventa elewa ni berner leito e butang dona matapu wani au kila sona kambia ka ndasta wakatara tiko me abo endon me dedike vatale se dama beka sa lokin wango sa tolna na non sabi pa matesar endo kila o irna na india ndo ta kavailiwe
dina
gonda saret sa tiko weekend ke mbala na nonra level of rage o irna non ta ngoni tuke sa tik sarngai vaki okay what are the root causes of that ya sona kami da tik butarong kenda kino kenda na itumtumbu na zamno muna sa koko kino nonra irna lubande they become so violent now sa ya to sar nonra libi pa matige
dina
yo kwanga evita root causes ko sambito kani ba eviwai medana ngai kila bikim ni talana parong tiko mai o bena katamo ni na redan ko kem ni na pakamato vale tiko muni na tiko munti ke na muni mato vale ke na non ramaro tiko na lo vendo no tumbir de mai e vite tiko na root causes ora no reda con arriva un na kana ba pala don mato vale se ro mbul ba viti ni do ya feeding commitment wada na ngon rosengi tiko ve redi kina mateni ngon rosengi tiko coaching kina sai na commitment ya yeah, so you need to relook at that again. So nang de bakarao me sabi sawe. Sanga nila kulitunga na dating na biko ya lealo ibya nang oni sendagi courting tikin. We have to continue to do it when you are married, because your relationship fades as your commitment fades. You know, when children come in, nataka live na commitments and nataka mendabanga rilavo merang making na bulibana kinamotobal. So klawa kilani wat kun tonong na kena budin da kun matu vale mende eta kata take you know it's not a bed of roses, we have to work at it yeah kena karu unresolved conflict una so na viotin do vango sa tiko entona issue o sin kilando so ke ko sabe pa badun dun to ya un commento na kada kapni tuta ngai lak me pango men de bosa and they ignore you and you never talk about it so that's an example of an unresolved conflict dan do kerkercunga virna tama wakatalakin became dina dorvo klani state kuna budini tikun muni ba bulava wati muni do tobole muni vivo saki vale communication ke baka batingo tobole tikun rongon rondo vital no mbate tu sona issues be kana marama kendo bio severa sona kanda sintaleta sangai laktu be kanda nararao, and when you are angry with something you know how you react you know how you react all the time if it's not solved or if it's not discussed so it begins to grow begins to breed panorenge ba buniti kun rosana ngai baka min dona wage trikia and the couple continues to go apart and
Mrs. Naitini, ovia kutikian tarunga na nomuni tarunga tiko maingori na root causes na nomuni wasi tiko maingori o waka sama taka ngori kona kamandin due leva tu iksa leva tu o siang ni via vital no taka ndona ka due aken karoni kutada ke maya na commitment na nomu na feeding commitment o mamuta na kena komunike dea na nomundru vitala no waka biotini communication and then I just want to take us back na ni sudu mai endo na ngone e waka dava na no mo bosa bua mo waka tabulidi koe on how to communicate o kila nduan dina na kambimbi menda na bulide ai menda na bulida menda waka tabulidi irtalanga na lubenda ke waka sa ndamberata na ngone ya sa utimbaka na ngone ni waka lubeni sarna lako mai na maku o waka mbota ni ya saranga na bottom line yan kambimbi ndunto menda na waka tabulidi ra and I wale dina ni wei tala noa ni dune ana vital noa and dua e bosa dua wakarorongo it's a skill that we all need to learn ke waka e tuna kilam beka ana vital noa but te sona ngona o wakandina taka wakaliu sona ngona waka miu satu kuna manda binita dona kau minakata minduru vital no taka O kere roni ndurun tambe manda ndono ngona nduru vital no taka. There's something we need to talk about. Me ona tuku nene vai au roni instant na kia na lako veke mai ndona wakai ndona lati.
One big block.
Iyo, lati saranga, siang, sini baby tal no tango, sing dondo, ese wakana na kaindo lako mai, mundo redo yau ni, ese anga ni dondo no me daka na vital noa. Me vatu ya, au ke lavi kim dona marama do se amati kumingo, dona do rani na wasi atal nga mai, wakada woira na kim do kasa, e do rao na no muni sanga muni vital noa se senga. But wakan dina taka, for someone who's been in multiple marriages, e sianga ni ka rau na nonda sanga menda na vital noa ko roni kaya, ni dona kambimbia menda hulida, menda gei wakatawulida veira na nonda ngone, na nonda tamba ngone, na kia na mbimbi to learn how to communicate. O ko tiken toli ustale na kaya wasi endua na tabalingu ya, endua na muna isuli miki na vikanda na kalo, e rua nandalinganda, dua na ngusundai. To listen more and talk less. E o manda ngawate kia, onda na kaya usanga mo wakatawulidi au tiko, me ondo wakarorongo, me roni rongo ada na kai tukuni tiko mai ni mbera ni unga iso mai ani. So I think that's a very important skill. Belete ni ke wakai sa tiko na raunin ro vitala no vaya, e na raunin ro na walia na vilanga keda ngai. O wasi e tiko waindo na nungu e tokani ro senge iwi o tini ngoni tiko ngorto sa vana ngoni. Na mbakini mbula i tiko mai na tini ka rua ki na 5. Arto na lea vango. Se teko mai non roba ti santo tuku na tiko koe piao. Sa waka nini wake o kango, sa viambi te koe ando mateni, bla bla bla, na kaindo wase tiko mai piao. Ia me wakani ndo wase ke de mo koe na veka ke de viao. O sange do tuku na tinga ve koe. Don't give up. Na watimu o koe ndo wakarorongo. Vitalia dhava se dhava. Yo kemanrao na kau tali takambali te kemanrao ni rau ni rau ndambe. And you guys can communicate. That's priceless.
Dia no na. Tokor mo se mengoria communication is key. Is key. Ana veka ke ngo merondo vital noro na roa. E tunti mengor kelano non das you need to learn that na communication skills. Okay, una let's just look back. Kepo ka tiko ni tabo sarui lebu kina na to ko ai sa tiko bitin ngongo au reda na stats talanga may biti tunti bangwa. Fiji has the 4th highest rate of domestic violence over a women's life, compared with 20 other countries that use the same survey method. Arto ada kam na Women's Crisis Center may witi and dona wakandindike yana between 2010 to 2011 orto vi bukatalakin orto na kaya bure stats na kana turme na research ya dona ka orto ngere na mai dona matagal survey method to wangataka orto reda mana with 20 countries that use the same survey method or witi 4th highest na rate of domestic violence. Ko e una kongore kona kana ki na vivo psych na communication. Io dorle stal mando no do tunti kla na rotumber mar na luvenda. Rotumber me na luvenda au sa tuno te ai voli lotu sa kondo no ngon le papteso ya and the white te kedo kenda mental rate na rotumber te kendo no ngoni. Io let me just I'm going to just ask you to think back. How do you know when you have a kid when you have a baby? When do you start talking to your child or not to your baby? When do you start talking to the child, to your baby?
Nangono sawa sudukina.
Iya, ngono sawa sudukina. Iya, dona kamenta kilati ko yavi kiro atumberi pakalile tana baby on parenting. Uklan dona couple ala ko ni ke America organized take simbolikino misolamini nota keronga liatin takana dona training on parenting orna mengoite bunga mo kuni na sandol mo wasti manan lumani kala there's a living thing growing inside of the womb of a mother. We begin to talk to them, we begin to pray over them dona ka bobli virtu ketana luvongia ngembuketa nga buy books, start reading the children's books. Willy Volatico, menarongatico no ngoni ngornyo Willy Volatico. Gay sudumay, estanta na vital notico. Aunque sarabutico mango, vine Roma kumbukirongo, our latest grandchild, and don't know when September ko sa gibula pa. Santa Red ron ko tunga ni blah 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 blah. Lokto na tal no. So we teach them to communicate, eh? Yo lebe kan tonongo ni viti una, dare sonongo ni lebe susumai. Eran bitu nga patiki era sindo vital no, eh?
Dina.
Iyo, kala ya nak dona kami sate ku visa nongo nongo. Mendo sate ku vital no patikir na lubenta, eh? Yeah, right from when we are expecting as moms, eh? Ya kena karutal nga una. Although siyang matin kila no do tumbirir no tangan tangane. O kala we can to ito ke pakando live nga nangona e focus na vosa tiko va nang ngone lewa lo mani vale. O manda o kreida ai o siyang matin to kila no tondo vital no what kerto na nong ngerto na ngani kala boyhood issues when they grow up, eh? So those are the kind of things too I think we can samay tungo na bono live, eh? Don me sabi sao ver talanga may viti kala me sabi sao no tovni tumberir na ngwan kana kango kwe sinron do vitam no takango induango, eh? Balete ni lakutikin na vi malwe baka viotine baka don renre to me the vitam tak or they say it's a taboo, eh? When we say it's a taboo as Christians on Donogorengo, if God created marriage, eh? If God created sexual intimacy, why is it a taboo? We really need to talk about it. Same mistakes that we, the older ones have done, so that they can be more prepared for the life that they're going to go through, eh? It's not what is the root causes? The root causes nga nilalate ko na vitang no parents, eh? With their children, extended family, eh? Sarang bito nga nalalora, biten, salok tumbang nga tatali, kona kis ngo ko, dari naman tangayon, ona, isa, salolong mandina, e bukete, e lakito kita ka vaka, e leso mayanggang gay na davembera may kina, eh? Iya também cada kami tukut tata, usin kela ada kata tikun beka se wen karabi tikui vale, ya talando na issue no kela anda doreda, e sona viotine vaya, dira kata tikun nelle, ora sinda kata ko na tangani, sangera lako ida kata karles mai vale, o kela andar sabi tanlo kina, e mai non rtala na wen karabi lo mani vale, so it's a double portion of the work in the household. Da be zola kedo tina, eh?
Dina todo ko. O waka samataka ni me waka ni doritunga na ulutanga ngoa ni na violence, eh? Na bala koko, eh? Gele bunga na ngona o iranga na turanga ra bala koko tiko e senga ni ukango ni senga ni rando bala koko talanga na maram blete so talanga na maram rando bala koko tiko vir na matin, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's rare, yeah.
It's rare. Yeah. Not to that extent, eh?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, onge waka samataka ni Eles tale na nonda tumberi mai, eh? Na nonda tumberi mai. Endo na kau, sange tumbo dake mai, endo na kau ndo sese wakango. Mrs. Naitini, ni waka ni tumberi mai ratuna nei na bumbu, eh? Sange ndo rongo tu, ni ndo waka uira na tangani, ke waka me na tangani me lako me lasa, kai manda lasa itumba na tangani.
Yeah, infidelity.
Me sange tukuni tiko bi alewa, e kondambi tiko nga. Eko wawa tik nga. Gore na tangani nga na nakanger na dakabatuya. Doya, kina karotali ndo tukuni ninda se kalalai, eh? Lakamai. Winak saranga mo baduki kwaisen do manda na keni romba me daka tuba, it's like giving the okay. We tangane me sambaki nga nena yalewa se do tale na tabale na beka. Lakamai limbita manda do keni rumbi se do keni romba, eh? Me vatuya. Okila ya saranga ninda tumberi daki me vaya sanda tukuna sarti nga vira na nonda tangane that it is okay to be violent.
Ya
me sana visau.
Iya, benak ramu kota menggor. Iya, ko yasar nga o kenta na tina, benda dike kenta tali kyan. Let's relook at how we do things. Not only mothers, the aunties, ko nganong gore. Ko tuntal chunga indo talanga na issue kwando root causes na in-law issues, eh? Kala kenta lako yani mendale servant, eh? Mendale bombulo tumbaka vera, eh? Sona kaya tu kwenda don mendareda bakatito meninda sakan in the lutu. Sinton don meavo. Those are some things that need to be cut off, because in other words, una in the 20 wango o kenda na marama da ready to no iranga do ka vali na wala ko ko mini vali na turang. But one thing, let me just bring up this issue. A lot of women are perpetrators. They instigate. Originally, we can we do that because I could go. That is telling me that we women, we are perpetrators. We encourage our sons to do this. Yet, do we look at ourselves? As women, so nós matanggali to ni vosta don me service sa nongo me da ka kuni kondon ta ka senda vaka makambea mele mo kondonela ya balato kendar ke kandar starava tu me mo kuna del vendorela sen kendar ayom tanga sara saranganyu da kampala indona ke I wouldn't see my daughter being beaten up sko ya sona kamenda rede tiko non dai to. Maybe some people do it unconsciously, but it's happening. We are perpetrators of violence. We instigate your son. So we giving our sons the wrong messages. Domestic violence.
Tos are the sartungangon ken rebu ni non tos don mito saviso takanga indo tale na lebu ni kainda sarabo tuira na ngone bale tango e tiko saranga mai na itumbu da kemi kin indo na ngone ngone tangani se ngone lewa na internet na vika ra sarabo tu na internet na statistics o ariri tiko na singa rua saoti ni wakarita kitiko kenda to na kai viti mai viti lebu tondo like we are rated the highest when it comes to Google na pornography lako talinga kina na violence kona vika ya era sarava mai era sarava tiko irna ngone de sa kena ngona talinga me to nangarona ni ra solitiko vira na ngone na nonra tablet na iPad na vika ya dina ninda to kaitingo ni vira mai vitin dena senga beka ni rauni tiko vira na iPad na laptop na kavaya senga roni kana voleka ni Dio sanga bulung beka na pasende na itu ke mai viti sa vaka have access to the internet
Iya. Ya sarga ko kai nan au kila una ngontor ke tiko bukin program go endona ka tukunetiko klau irke na vivan the schools of influence ko e buli to mai kin endona tamat tambiani endonga na vira na media e tiko bubuli mai vale sangalo kan lot sangalo kan korbuli sangalo kan pia vernon relaw sangai tiko kana sa wakan tombolo ngono na internet
dina
so they can access information from everywhere koya we can ritum kala menda sa buli me bakalelita we have to control control what our children are watching ke bakar sa tiko dalaba tiko mara sara internet tiko ngono ngoni sangon lalai imagine when they become teenagers what can while you spoke about internet on finances we can to America so can ni KVT kala sta donga kare ben katamay viti wakawe nailawe menda sabuli tanga to monitor what are our children spending money on nailawo lang tikin na ibino ko na bang tagchukin ya talan to no menda sarani monitor taka baleta and the sinti ko tikir na luventa siguro makmut maybe 24 hours and yet we give them money where they can have access to things back and the singing monitor tikanye
wakando to the enabling
iya
the singing tiko ikyan the singing tiko nikila baleta bekanga ni the kona guilty conscience ndo to nito Nito tu ya tu mai tu saba ko ilava tunga tu senga tu nikila na dava to bakanga takatikina na ilavo o ira nangone binaka bakaliu na numini ko tadak mai do matanga non do rituk ni bebol ni ber ninge to manital non do vital no sabo tunga go vida na miniti me mai dava talnga na vital no na kavini ko
JJ's Food Shack. E tigo kedi kina na kakana boka biti me bakana kokonda. Lobo benga ni ngai kani do itu na bundi nan dalo se tabiok. Na kakana boka langi me bakana steak boka loka kena coleslaw. Wee! Na karitoa sa wadha badina na keni kana. Kay tigo talangana no to specials and the lomo ni madawa. Dau tamba na Facebook. Na doi ni tiwa ya na pani mandrai pai kay na bungatale. Go na JJ's Food Shack. Viu Valley mo Billy Jane Street, Santa Rosa, California. Karo talagang rato dili mo yang may Santa Rosa, may ato sarang ni Kena Vato. Girit-rito sana Kena Vitu Saiba Vitu Tolo Dio Tolo Dundu Limono. JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Dendran baka nang wala ni Kivalilo, tinapuko ni oso-oso pakadadaka. Sendrakin kita baka na itos-tos nimbula, kuha nilenga sinuing gawa-gawa. Nana magi-may kina programo warotaki. May verataw na New Methodist Christian Fellowship USA, Nongu Chisu, Nongu Banua. Rungo na bima maniona na kabini buku lulu bay Kemando e California, bima manindu na singilewu ni lotulewu bay Kemando e Viti, and a radio Bula Duavata San Francisco, may Kauti Keda Vata mai.
Doyan Robina ka naman raman na ita. Do samba di ba kusa-kusa iwe?
Yanra na ita. Kita sili katalaw mande na Orange Lounge.
Maleka. Kura san ba di kata-kata pinakasar tu nga toboy, siyang pambakaw. Ngay way dala tu kinambata.
Koe serangan kori, sono ngono santa pinakat serangan na kenta kakana.
Di na to zoko. Kaya kita sana berata ini bagai singlebu, kita sana gali bagai kabin ngaya ni kena.
Na Orange Lounge, katalaw bagai singlebu siya bagai kabi, e baraw tayo ito bagai manggo sanggay totokan na buno ni kana. May namenta to ito niti, kena bagai singlebu siya bagai kabi, may bakana bagai sekera, na sui, ikatabu teke, roro bagai lolo, kaya na vida tale. Giraraw mo kila na menu ni singoya, na Orange Lounge, tolo-tolong dua, Orange Street, Santa Rosa. And dua tala na taman ni Vingarabi ni Divine Group of Companies. Dola man na wala kaloka na mataka, kina wala kaloka anambongi moniti kina singatambo na Orange Lounge. Tolo-tolo dua, Orange Street, Santa Rosa. Na dawi kalawa kay Mrs. Titilia na itini. Wei talanota ki kina na ulutang ang bimbi ka daw ren-ren na kina wei talanota ki sewa say ana matana lewu. Ulutangan ni toso kiliu. Wei waka ungeti kan daw wei labeti. Rangode na wei kabin ni tu city ni 7 na tinikaro na tinikaliman na miniti wei kemando ibiti, 7 na 5 na tinikaliman na miniti wei kemando wei California and wei Singamoniti, and wei tokoni ni JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Rangode na Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco, may Kauti Keda Vata mai. Ito ba katulot ko? Daw saya lupa mo din na. Sabar mandangan to buli-buling, gaya o talito ni stoa.
Tolako. Sini niya na stoa, wala ka tungang o maulimat. May binaka ni sa atukit sarangaki na nagkatungan reba, may paleta na nato ito ilalako.
May binakasar nga. Wala roti karibate ni kina. Dato birito na bisi nga nagkarimate ni, said means kaya na sausage roll. Gaya rito makuntal nga na bukas ang lemo na bisi. Karatal mo na address?
4525 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2, Santa Rosa.
Do ba ka pa raw chubega kina do na ni matubale, sinong do boli-boli nga ba ka matawa. Wala ito mata kina mauli mata. Esa tu kede kina na yaya ni kakana. Yaya ni ti kina bikala lai tale so, kanda un ren-ren na kunia. Tu raw talaga ni goto ay nomu ni bulu-bulu ke bawang ni tigo man na marin sa Sonoma County, kan ren-ren nomu ni Villa Guayaki, vitar tarani kina napa ni taliboni, 125 saiba. Vitu tolu 5 vitu na kena ituku matay lalay. Mau 5 dan 25 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2, Santa Rosa, California.
Na radio Bula Duavata mai tomani tiko na vitalanoa na nondai wasiningo na vata na dawi kalawa e nai kavi venaka ni mo ni tendendai ni kaono ni singa ni Bula November venaka bakalevu na sema tiko mai ke rando mai be tomani tiko ani ke Mrs. Titilia na itini na nondai wasiningo na venaka ngo ke bakai tu e sona kao ni ve wasea mai ni ve wakai tavi talanga mai na ve talanoa se na ve ulutanga iso endo mai do raki tiko ani na nondai wasiningo na vatongo ni vola mai raunio ni bita tok nga mai na nonda messenger ka se na nonda Vata ni sa sema tiko me kinangori rau talangani ni imbita nga mai na Radio Bula Duavata Messenger se rau ni imbita mai ve Mrs. Titilia na itini e talangana ya de vakanga takatiko ko na Messenger se una buninda kua na Messenger tomani tungana ni robital noa sa mai bola talangani dava tiko ngo na nonde wasini ngono vate ne kavini kua Mrs. na itini dava bekaroni ndor mai vakada barakina na vitala noa ne kavini kua
Vena kauna una keranga vi ke manini warong tiko mai au kenda access ta tuna internet ke waka via reida na tukutuku ni na national research arto vai dora na women's Christian taiviti dana tiko na somebody's life everyone's business 2010 to 2011 na research arto ka one national research ko eu live na stats o kuta mai kinango na research kina pa matalalai so na kisi kwando ran vital no tango lebu sarngar do buketi tiko endo laktal tinga kini top ko lebu na research arto vai dora na tiko kina na binaka moni wilika wata kena botinya nga kila na bin nonda bilomani bin nonda bilomani da kirito nga ver na turang be kenda na marama kenda na ta meta stati ko viva buli talman de verno loventa especially to our boys our sons how are they being groomed in the household koya we kenda na tina da tomato nga nandita tapi masulaki we continue to pray for our children we lim na luvengo klando tiko nang osando masulaki to tungar to sa bawat who are married we just pray for them and I remember when I go home sembolo tiko na tamango yung dola ko ibiti on dorong di rani rondo masu tu na o san dorong tamango tu ni santo masu tu na kanga politik no numi basta kito William Dua keno no matabobal mentalist talimba kay kia
dina
dalist talimba kay kia o kenda na ito o kenda na grandparents mentalist talika kenta na valu beni ngoni tiko santa tiko mas dam masola kirno nda matabuman
dina
bata sa anda sinra rinda rede tiko na ito ko saya tiko nango anda seng ni dore de tuili kenta na mani viti
no da bunde bina kana no da bunde no da inui sa ko sarangaya beleta na vi lenga keden da la ko duro motongo na veka ke de sarana kai adu tu en na ve sei burubure so ka rauni na mai aba balakina na mule ni nonda matabu vale roni nda to vakandina dina taka ke de na sema tiku mai na kavini kua ni sa ke nei walindina ngawe ana masu there's only so much we can do ke to ki lave na ka me vakandu se vakalevu Mrs. Naitini ke nda ke nda konda tumbere ke de mai na lotu koia e roni tu sana kila na vono mi tuna lista likina nonda tu inui nonda tu i wakandei sa koia ngai ana masu Sama i dawa talangani kiana ni ruvi talno e na kawini kua, se vida talitiko na ulutanga, membaleta na domestic violence ka kiro mai vitalno kina na kawini kua, kiro na gai taraya ni e na madhawa katumai gai mai tomani talitiko na nonda vitala nongo, tiko e so na ulutanga lalai me wakana na financial struggles, na parenting, na addiction issues, infidelity, na vikawa o yaro ni kiro na gai mai vitalno kina na madhawa katumai ka rau talangan yun ni wakaitapi mikina. Bikim do kede na maraman do siya matiko mai na kawini kua lela lubu ke la nindo ni wakasina ititu en alamatua na wakatulewa ke na wakasama roni na vivu ke tiko ke na vire rando siya matiko mai wakatala ke na ve lili koroi nimbula vinaka. Ian dangai mai tomana talitiko na nonde wasiningo na vata na kawini en dawi kalawa en moni timayango o sembera ni Mrs. Naitini o nanuman dese na via wakamoa de tala mai weekenda na kawini kua i o vambota Sangole o Mrs. Naitini e sang na langa tomani te ngana nonda programo ne kawini kua ni sama isiving gono ono e nandua na miniti ni sema te ngā maindo tali te ngana nonda bulangin tokai e na kawini kua e na lome ni tini na miniti mai ango kero na mai veitomani tuka ni kina kendo na turanga ni tonga na gai me wakamadala tiki kua ne nandua ni songo ka edha ni songo tiko ngona salt Masima e na gai me wakamatata takai ni koe se dhawa sarumanda na imbalimbali ni adha ni non retu songo e na ngona leka ngango e na radio Bula Duavata San Francisco me Kauti Keda Vata mai
Na dhawi kalawa kay Mrs. Titilia Naitini and a video goni ni JJ's Food Shack Santa Rosa, California and a radio Bula Duavata San Francisco Radio Bula Duavata me Kauti Keda Vata mai San Francisco ki burubura sema mai ngai wasea yani
No te sera katarawangona ve wakambula tu kanikina ve ana takayawa bula vinaka sistam bula vinaka lili koroi wanga vatu wakatalanga kina ve lela lubu senga tala ningula da vitekina mare da lalanga vesi bula vinaka tapete bula vinaka matetea andranindalo vinaka wakalevu na sema tiko mai ana kavi vinaka ni moni tendendai tu siti tiko ve kimdo mai viti ndo bula vinaka merengo roya bula vinaka sista wakatalanga kina ve nemua mari da koroi tamana wakanuni vinaka tiko yani ve kimdo mai Santa Rosa ve kimdo na Divine, wakatelanga kina na Orange Lounge, senga talani ngula dapiti kina kimdo kede sara na cover box, do bula vinaka rusula, isa, buretini, unuitaka ni oni bula vinaka tiko, ena yanu totoka ni sema tingo me kina na kavini kua wakatela kina ve tali da wanga bula vinaka teli wakanuni vinaka tukani ve kimdra na ve tukani senga tela ningola da vitikina mbui TJ toka ni bula vinaka sista bula vinaka senada wakanuni vinaka tukani ve kimuni wakatela kina ve ndilo bula vinaka maramatau Luisa Ratolomai vinaka wakalevu na sema tiko mai Tara Fatiaki bula vinaka bubu wakanuni vinaka tukani ve kimuni na kavini kua wakatala kina ve serua ya nima te walu nui taka ni uni mbula vinaka tiko wakatala kina ve marama na ita feni biu mai wai vinaka wakalevu na sema tiko mai na kavini kua sengatala ni ngula davite kina kimanrao na ika ni vere pauli asi ke mereani ika ni vere wakanui ni vinaka tiko yani ve kimdo na kavi vinaka ni moni tendendai nui taka ni uni mbula vinaka tiko se venga na vano ni sema tiko mai kina ke wakao ni adhalata na vital noya sengana lenga ningai sikova na Radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel na kavini kua ni nagai rongo the kina na vitala noa ke Mrs. Titilia Naitini and non de wasini ngona ni dhawi kala wa vitoko ni tiko kina na JJ's Food Shack. Serango me nomini ke the tiko ni sa sivitonga na ono and vana miniti wakambula talitinga wakambimbi ve sista Serra da Lata and city level in San Francisco. Bola vinaka cheli.
sibe iau ko awakananda kuya nabuvale ubale mamarau takivuni nungaru sota kamatalebu sekembama singaturanga niwa bulina sivali pina ruasaiba sava vitu elambasa toka utabaka duana yalangu kamida ninongu ibakarau liseri nagunua mamu nayangamu emai wewe ni usu tungai utongu maroro ya boli tuongo amenongu kosurete ya menarungani sabu-sabu iran nawe kamu unia sawa na banua amai mai mate vandina oti ani ebula tolu andrebi tumesana lesu veira nangu tumbu bisamatini dole tunabuli toka utabaka duana yalangu kamida ninongu ibakarau liseri nagundua mamu nayangamu emai wewe ni usu tongai utongu maroro ya boli tuongo amenongu aubo sayala ninasenga ale aunamona kena seva nikona mai boroka wale nongundina toka utabaka duana yalangu kamida ninongu ibakarau liseri nongundua mamu nayangamu emai wewe ni usu tongai utongu maroro ya boli tuongo amenongu isama mainongu maunanumia
Maiwera i launa na siando moni o ana radio Bula Duavata ko tamai kina na ngona ni sa sivitonga na ono e na tini ka tolu na miniti wakambula tale tukuani weke mnina singe sema bo tiku mai ane ka vivinaka ni moni tendendai ne ka ono ni singa ni Bula November vi sivitiko na ono ne aua ke to mai tiku tiko na ni to na Daylight Savings, na bongi levu ni wakarawai, koe aka sa tōru na mai siviti ki nangoe na ono na iaua, we can kemundo na sema tiko mai viti. Waka nuni winaka tiko ani, na kawini kua, waka nuni winaka ni nandua na matha, winaka wikenda na matha ngo, na ndua talanga na wula wau. Koe asa, to tolo ali tunga, ke tau sa waka wakarau tiko ngo ki na Thanksgiving, na wula ngo, o ke la ni na wula tiko ni ta wakawinuwinaka, lewanaka e tu men ta wakawinuwinaka taka tu, senga walenga ni ngai wulongo na vi singa tiko ni wakawinuwinaka io, wakari taka tiko ni ana, ndona ngauna leka ngaungo, ke rona vi talno tiko ni kina, ke nandona turanga ni Samoa, e na ngai wakamadhala tiki koe ani, ka wakatila kina na isongo e lewe ana tiko, se liu taka tiko koe ni songo ngo, se ngai wakamadhala taka tiko koe wakadhadhavi, au ni ngo na noruti songo, e mpaleta tunga na na Wasa Pasifika. Me Kauti kenda kedi tiko mai na we matanitu mai na Wasa Pasifika kanda sa tiko, mai baka tiko na bano libungo Amerika, ia ndana gai rongo da manda na nona i baka madhala na ndona ngau na leka ngango. Wikamni na dhalata na ni robe tala noa ke Mrs. Titilia Naitini, wikamni talanga na dhalata na we tala noa ke na Ethnic Media Services and kawini kua, we tala noa bina kasara mai we ua se tiko ni kina ndo na lawyer ka yanga sara baka libu we kenda, ka usurit kimni, moni ngai sema tu ngai ani, sengai sikawa tiko na nito YouTube channel o yana Radio Bula Duavata, and a YouTube channel, and don't be tu kani kina na we tala noa ke sara, do me baka iduri tiko ani, na nondi wasini ngona vata, and a we kawini moniti ke na waka rambuka, Radio Bula Duavata, San Francisco, me Kauti kanda vata tiko mai. Sera katarawangona we waka mbula tiko ani kina we ndauve, mbula vinaka ndiso, Evelina Sikivo, wakatala kina we Cheli Tambua, mbula vinaka tukiti, wakanuni vinaka tiko ani we kimrau, wakatala kina we ratu, isikeli tambaka udhoro, we ngana vano ni sema tiko mai kina, na kawini kua, wakambula tala tungani we pasepa waini ngolo, ni mbula vinaka sistambu i TJ Toka, waka nuni vinaka tiko ani we kimdona we tinani we tumbuni mai Santa Rosa, senga talani ngola dhabi tikino Cheli, mbula vinaka we kimdona sema tiko ngori mai Santa Rosa, au nitaka ni mbula vinaka tiko sema ni se burubura dhabo, ni sema tiko mai kina, ane kawini kua, gomena domani kevi tiko.
Taki manda vakasi sinai Sambala bundina enda sengani veirai Suwa vake maile wandaru simba Musuka sombu ya vinawani siwa Songo ngani marau Nevakatangi ni durumiao Auna musuka tunga Senga taleve auna mandua Suwa vaka malua Nikuwa nambongi ni ngunu singa Auna musuka tunga Senga taleve que manda mai tuisi la vena linganda rondani si kuatale niko kao ai no musinga ni sudu enda esto so mai no gulewa mai tukuna veya uno mulenga masa ati indina lenana amusandenge ndaru mai meke auna musuka tunga senga taleve ya una mandua suwa bakamalua nikuwa nambongi ni ngunu singa auna musuka tunga senga taleve ya una mandua suwa bakamalua nikuwa nambongi ni ngunu singa amusandenge ausamudenga eke amusandenge ausamudenga eke amusandenge ausamudenga eke amusandenge ausamudenga eke auna musuka tunga senga taleve ya una mandua suwa bakamalua nikuwa nambongi ni ngunu singa amusandenge ausamudenga eke 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 amusandenge.
Yavalata Deonangai Velata and Radio Bula Duavata. Veitalo no te kina na vika me baleta na nondong bula. Mai wei ira na kena dau mai na tambana ni bula so. Nasi na puni wai. Rongoda na bana kaloko na vika vini tu city and na veito kone ni Lincoln Heritage Life Insurance. Na kamba ni life insurance kanga niti kianda na kaiviti Amerika. JJ's Food Shack. E tiku kete kina na kakana boka biti me pakana kokonda. Lobo benga ni ngai kani doitu na bundi na ndalo se tapioca. Na kakana boka malangi me pakana steak pakaya loka kena coleslaw. Wee! Na kari toa sa wadha badina na keni kana. Kaya tiku talangana nono to specials and lomo ni madhawa. Dau tamba na Facebook. Na doi ni tiwa ya na bani mandrai pai kaya na bungatale. Go na JJ's Food Shack. Viu Valley mo Billie Jean Street, Santa Rosa, California. Kaya talagang rito dili mo yang may Santa Rosa, may yato sarani kina Vata. Giritirito sana kina Vitu Saiba Vitu Tolo Vio Tolo Dundu Limono. JJ's Food Shack, Santa Rosa, California. Nungu chisu, nungu badua. Dorongode na vima maniono kina Vitu ene kawani bugululu we kemudawe California. We mamani ruane kavi kina tolu ene singalewu ni lotilewu we kemudawe Viti. E warotaka na New Methodist Christian Fellowship, USA. Rongode na Radio Bula Duavata, San Francisco, me Kauti Keda, Vata mai.
Bula binaka ni Matthew, isawa kuskusibe. Isa ni bula binaka, o se vive mandongo kina maulimat. Ele taka kina endona nito pakataka kana lalai. Yo leu kutaka pakatotolo, ni bernirto yave ani na bulangi.
Oi, o dia bakasanga.
Erto bakasanga talanga orato. Sarara saranga. Go enta so mga nakakana. Esen enta so manakena bakanya takina olo.
Oi, okay. Nagsaraman da kilatiko.
Maulimat, Valley Marulima, Montgomery Drive, Suite 2 and 3, Santa Rosa, California. Veitartara sarani kina naba ni telefoni 125 saiba vitu tolu 5 vitu. Ene kena itugutugu matalalai.
Beba kasar nga. Oni rai do tokongo, na kenai rai. Dua ngana rupu ni buni kau, e dua beiran ng tingitaki, o Reverend Aminio Balen Rock.
Tawa kamay na nung programo baka madawa na toso ni ngauna. Ano ba yung ngarabi ni City Veni Raturla? Singa buglulu ni Simon na bayan na tinamniti may kamo ni Amerika. Singa lutulay mo ni Simon na tinikantuwa na tinanamaniti may kamo ni Maiviti. Ano ba ito konin ni Divine Group of Companies, Maolimat kay na San Bruno Cavaba. Namaka and a Radio Bula Duavata, San Francisco, with Kauti Keda Vata mai.
Senga tina ni karaurawa na daka-daka waka kekiba. Ia endona kainda wipu ke kawaka mamanta taka tuna bengarabi. O ia ke tuna kenda to kakana. Na ika, na dalo, na bisikete, na reo bata, na sunbells e tinimbulu makau. We kenda to na senga tiko nindraiva, se senga ni waka motoka, katau Dren-dren na tutu beto seki, erto satu wakarao na Divine Pacific Food Mart may Sacramento, merto taladayani na nung ni boli-boli. Rawa-rawa sara, wetar-tar ngayani na taliboni diwan 21 toluwa diwa ono saibarua, merto wakarotaka katalada may na nung ni boli-boli, ena kinagona totolo tuwa.
Divine Pacific Food Mart, Vitorua Diwawalu, Franklin Boulevard, Sacramento, California. Namba di telefoni 2121 toluwa diwa ono saibarua. Erto ngarap talangan ni kanalay waka sumburi ani nanomu yaya. May nanonood to stoa kinanomu mati ni katumba.
Ana Radio Bula Duavata, wawakarita katigoniani kero na may beital no tikoyani ke Sweetie na turanga ni Samoa ni bosotia o tukoni tukani ni turanga ni tonga ya sange wakarita katikin tikungo koe ni turanga ni Samoa and songo na salt. Kau so nangai kiri ko nga me nangai wakamadala takayani na imbale ni salt wakanga na masimai koya and nangai wakamadala kino koya. Sweetie, thank you so much for being here this evening. First of all, when I heard the name Sweetie, I was thinking it was abbreviated. It was an abbreviation of something. I didn't realize that was your real name. So welcome to Radio Bula Duavata tonight. It's a pleasure to have you on our show. And if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and say hello to our listeners, please.
Yes, thank you, Una, for having us this evening to be on your platform and your radio here. But my name is Sweetie Tangata, and I am one of the founders of the Salt Association in San Francisco. And so we're a grassroots organization doing community work in San Francisco. And we launched off in 2020, but a lot of us has been doing the work for over 20 plus years.
Wow, that's amazing, because I'm sure there's 20 plus years. I am sure that there's a lot more going on than SALT,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So the name itself, SALT, could you tell us a little bit about what SALT really means and what exactly does SALT do?
Yeah, sure. So SALT is an acronym, and it's the first letter of the 4 founding partners of their organization. So SALT, the S stands for South Pacific Islanders, A stands for Ainga One, which is all islanders gathering as one. The L stands for Living in Peace, and then the T stands for Tongans Rise Up, which is the first Tongan organization in San Francisco. And so with SALT, you know, we're grassroots, as I said earlier, and so we're still building, you know, a lot of our components, but one of our huts. And so one of the things that we're doing with our Pacific Islander organizations, you know, is number one, we're being inclusive of all our other brothers and sisters of the islands, you know, Fijians, Guam, Samoans, Tongans, you know, and Hawaiians and whoever else. And so one of the components that we currently have right now is our resource hut, you know, located at 150 Executive Park Boulevard, Suite 2450. And so, you know, with that component, you know, we're able to help people with employment, workforce development, housing assistant, you know, and different other types of services like immigration services and what have you. Yeah.
Great. So when you say resource hut, it's actually a physical address.
Yes.
A building.
Yes, yes. And so we're in operations on Friday, 10 to 4, but you can actually come in, you know, Monday through Friday, through Thursday. But our office is open for all of our Resource Hut partners that are there, you know, at the table. And so because we wanted to reclaim our identity and who we are, we're using our words like hut. You know, in Samoan, you know, it's whaleo'o, you know, and so here in America, they're called hubs or resource centers. With us, we call ours the resource hut.
I love that.
Yeah, and so we also have an education component that we're also building, and we're calling that the Atamai hut. And so everything is reclaiming who we are, and it's going back using our words, you know, as such as hut.
Great. So I just want to take us back to the word SALT.
Yes.
And the T is Tongans Rise Up.
Yes.
My question is why that? Why Tongans Rise Up when you're trying to include all the Pacific Islanders?
Yeah, so Anna Mahina, which is the owner and the founder of Tongans Rise Up, when we stepped out and formulated, you know, so it was only the Samoans and the Tongans that we had at that current time. So currently we are adding more and more people, you know, to our association.
More ethnic
yes,
groups?
Absolutely.
Great. So what has the response been like since you, how did you hear about Radio Bula Duavata?
Well, it was actually through our client, and now she's on our leadership team and also on our board for our Pacific Islander Culture District, and that is through Colette Vesikula.
Colette, yes.
Yes.
Great. And so now that you're trying to include all the Pacific Island nations that are here, the Pacific Island ethnic groups that are here in the U.S., what has the response been like, and what are you doing to reach out to these other ethnic groups?
Yeah, so the response has been tremendous, you know, because of all of our other nations, islanders, they don't feel that they're alone. You know, and so collaborating and working together and coming collectively, you know, when you're dealing with the nonprofit work, our numbers are not too great. But if we come together collectively, you know, the strength is in the numbers. And so the, you know, the results and everyone that are a part of the SALT Association now, I mean, the response has just been beautiful, you know, and then not only coming together, but also learning and understanding each other's culture. Even though we have a lot of similarities,
yeah.
There's still the uniqueness of each island. Yeah.
That's great. So what are some of the programs, like, let's say, for our Fijian listeners, because this is a Fijian radio station,
Yes.
so of course we have Fijian listeners that are tuning in. What can they look forward to when it comes to SALT? Like, how can SALT help them? How can they reach out to SALT? How can they tap into the resources that SALT has?
Yeah, sure. One of them is immigration.
Great.
And so that's how we were able to connect Colette, through the immigration.
Mhm.
And from immigration, if they have immigration status, if they need a job,
Mhm.
we're able to connect them, with various different jobs within San Francisco,
Mhm.
and that's part of our workforce development piece,
Mhm.
and that piece falls under IENGA 1. And things of that sort. Yeah.
Great. I like that because earlier on we had a conversation with Ethnic Media Services, and the attorney brought up the U visa. And so I'm thinking, I'm always trying to reach out there to see if there's an immigration attorney. I know there's like hundreds and hundreds of immigration attorneys, around, but are you like affiliated with an immigration attorney who can come on the radio and talk to our people about UV visas and all those other things when it comes to immigration?
Yeah, so we have a partnership with the Latino Task Force
Mhm.
in San Francisco,
Mhm.
and so we are utilizing a lot of their resources, as far as immigration, because that's one of the areas that the areas that they are heavy into,
Mhm.
is immigration, those that are coming, from South America and what have you, Mexico,
Right.
and so immigration, it's the same across the board, no
Mhm.
matter who you are, but we
That's
do
true.
have resources that are Samoans, and they do specifically, with immigration. They're not particularly lawyers,
Mhm.
but they have shared extensively, with me. The pros and cons, if you will,
Mhm.
more on the con side,
Mhm.
with the lawyers,
Mhm.
because there's been a lot of people, and I've heard it myself, they've gone through lawyers and they just take your money and nothing really happens.
Right. That's so true. So, what else is there apart from immigration? I know there are other, like the Regional Pacific Islander Task Force that we work closely with, and they mostly focus on health issues and the health resources that are available. So, you've got immigration, and what other resources are there for our people?
Yeah, we have education,
Mhm.
As well. So, we have education enrollment. What we're trying to do. We passed in 2018, I believe, the FASI, which is the Fat Samoan Initiative.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we're able to do now with the San Francisco School District is we're teaching from the pre-K, the Samoan dual language. And so ultimately we want to get the Tongan languages in there. We want to get the Fijian language in there, our indigenous, languages in there,
Mhm.
and begin to reclaim, who we are again as Pacific Islanders.
That's so true.
We have housing assistance,
Mhm.
moving costs, for those that, because that's a big expense, is your first down payment, and security deposit and what have you,
Mhm.
and we also have, with the resources, the ability just to navigate people through, trying to secure some type of stabilized housing.
Mhm. That's great because we know how expensive it is to live here in California,
Yes.
especially here in the Bay Area. You said housing assistance, housing resources?
Yes.
Is that something that our people can also tap into?
Yes, absolutely. In the city of San Francisco, the residency, what have you, they can definitely tap into that.
Great. Thank you. All great information. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners to be aware of, to be enlightened with when it comes to SALT and the resources that you have?
Yeah. One of the other things, we're really pushing for November the 9th, this coming Thursday
Mhm.
at 6 p.m., which is our Pacific Islander Cultural District, our first community meeting, and just educating, our Pacific Islanders in San Francisco on what is a cultural district. And we would love to see, any and all of our Fijian community, from San Francisco
Mhm.
to come and to take part of this and just to learn what the cultural district is, in San Francisco, because it's going to benefit all of us,
Mhm.
and so, it is Pacific Islander Culture District. And so again, with SALT, we have become very intentional, in wanting to be inclusive of all of our other brothers and sisters from the other islands.
Great. So is it just specifically targeted for the San Francisco County, or?
Yes, for the culture district. We call it the PICD, just to keep it short. Yes, it is in San Francisco. Yes.
What about those from the Alameda County, the Sonoma County, Marin County? Because most of us Fijians are in the Sonoma, Marin County, and also the South, Santa Clara County, Alameda County.
Yeah, because of it's called San Francisco, PICD, Pacific Islander Culture District. Yeah, it does. I mean, it is in San Francisco, or what have you, and so one of the things that which we envision to do, as SALT, is to be able to reach out regionally. Just not locally in San Francisco.
That would be great.
But in the whole entire Bay Area, because again, our numbers are small, but then not only that, they're all scattered throughout the whole Bay Area.
That's true.
So it's one of the things that we really have to advocate for, to be able to not only use local funding locally, but go globally, but also get, some outside, funding from, different parts of the Bay Area as well, or even state funding.
Right. I was going to say state
or
funding.
Private funding.
Yes.
Private funding is better.
That's so true. So if anyone wants to know about SALT, come to Thursday's event. Right?
Yes, Thursday's event, and it's going to be held at 150 Executive Park Boulevard, Suite 2200 at 6 p.m.
Great.
And we're going to have some island food. So, we have, again, I have to
when
reiterate
you say island
this.
food, palusami?
Yes, so we're having a dish, 1 or 2 dishes from Fiji, 1 or 2 dishes from Fiji,
great,
from Samoa and Tonga and Hawaii. So again, we not only want to be inclusive in inviting, our brothers and sisters, but we also want to be inclusive in the food as well.
Hey, that's our main thing.
Hey, if the food is terrible, the event is going to be terrible.
Yes, you got to have the food. If anything, people come for the food,
they
it's
come
okay.
for the food.
Yes.
If nothing else, just come for the food.
That's so true. And if they just walk away that evening and take one thing, just one thing with them, I think that's an accomplishment, right?
That's absolutely, especially for us as islanders.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sweetie, for being with us tonight. We
Thank
hope
you.
to have more of you and the program on our show. We'll be sure to put the flyer out. Vikim ni na sema tiko mai na nrito posta e na gimbi tiko ani na nonda I rongo mai bal ni songo me radio ni na kilakina na address in San Francisco. Tongeli sote kina. What time again on Thursday?
6 o'clock p.m.
6 o'clock Thursday evening, this Thursday.
This Thursday.
Let's go have some palusami, right?
Palusami, yes. Absolutely.
Palusami and the works. So before we call it a night, sweetie, is there anything else you'd want to share with our listeners tonight?
No, I just want to thank you, Una, for giving us this platform just to be able to reach our Fijian community. And we just want to let our Fijian community know that we love you and we're waiting for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's Sweetie from SALT, this Pacific Island organization based out of San Francisco. And we hope to have more of you on our show, Sweetie, in the near future. Hopefully not too far, but in the near future, right?
Yes.
O togo e rusa ka bula kawalu na miniti be vitu na kaloko and the radio Bula Duavata wakam bula tika ane vikim do na sema tiku mai na kavini kua ni bula vinaka pakalevu na veto mani tiku mai wakanuni vinaka tiku ane sevinga na vanua o ni sema tiku mai kina na kavini kua te indua talemanda na nonde ta visera ni sawa togo e rusa ka bula karua na miniti me vitu na kaloko.
No mundau ngalubia Senga nilkila sembalen dina libede Evuna no musanga lubiao
Radio Bula Duavata me Kauti Keda Vata mai San Francisco ki Burubura sema mai ngai wose yani.
do yan Robina kana maraman na ita. Do samba di ba kusa-kusa iwe.
Yandra na ita. Kita sili katalaw mande na Orange Lounge.
Maleka. Gora san ba di kata-kata pinakasar tunga toboy simpang bakau. Gai wai dala tu kinambata.
Koe serangan kori. Sono ngono santa pinakat serangan na kenta kakana.
Dina to zoko. Kaya kita sana berata ini bagai singelebu, kita sana gali bagai kabi ngaya ni kena.
Na Orange Lounge, katalau bagai singelebu se bagai kabi, baru tegi tu bagai manggo sanggai to toka na buno ni kana. Mai na menda tu ide ni ti, kena bagai singelebu se bagai kabi me bakana bagai sekera. Na sui, ike tu teke roro bagai lolo kena vida tale. Gira ramo kila na menu ni singoya. Na Orange Lounge, tolong dua Orange Street Santa Rosa. Yang dua tala na tambang di Vingarabi ni Divine Group of Companies. Dola mena wala kaloka na mataka, kina wala kaloka anambongi moniti kina singatambo. Na Orange Lounge. Tolong dua Orange Street, Santa Rosa.
Tēnā radio Bula Duavata, na ngauna sawa tongo e vitu na miniti me vitu na kaloko. Sana mai dawa talitunga e kena non da programo e na kawini kua, a ve kimni na dalata, na ve talnoa ke de sara mai wakaidori tuku ni kua, na ve talnoa ke na Ethnic Media Services, wakatala ke na non de wasini ngauna ni dawi kalawa ke Mrs. Titiliana Itini, ka keronge me ve talnoa tiongoa ke Sweetie, mai na Salt, ndo na isongo ka ko te bata kede tiko mai, sa sanga tiko me kota bata kede tiko mai na kenda kede mai na Wasa Pasifika. Na ve mata ni tu mai na Wasa Pasifika e San Francisco. E anta na isongo ka kero mai ve talno tiko yani kena duvertona kena liuliu ane kawini kua. Na ve talno kede au sureti kia munimo ninga e sikopa yani na Radio Bula Duavata YouTube channel. E tiko kede kena kena ve talnoa kede sarendo wakaidori tiko na ve kawini moniti kena wakaromboka mai na tolu kena vitu na kaloko. Sa watongo ono na miniti me vitu na kaloko na munito kani uno vuninda kua, waka nuni venaka tiko na kawini kua, singelevu ni kua, mataka ni kua, sembongi levu ni kua. Wengana vano ni sema tiko me kina, au ni taka ni ana marro i tiko na mbula, dananga me veronga dindo matali tiko na ngona katarawa ni mataka sana mai vitu mani tiko ni kina o ratu pedeli na novo, ni ngena nama ki tiko me kina, me dhova na ngona katarawa ni te waka dengu takumanda.
Once you see what's in these two heavy-duty totes, you'll feel safer when the next disaster rolls around, because you'll...
Yeah.
dito na ka usaba ka nanderubi wasi juga nunggu ida buta na bitan longon na ngauna na sere. Sa dotu lang son to. Okay, lalabo sili nunggu gabo ka boka. Bata pa ka ni sabo lang ni tabo nando dito ka. No bitang ni signal lalo to sunan tang gabo ka boka. So ba sini naket lalo tal gabo.
Ni Bula Duavata. Sama mai ka wasean in a radio Bula Duavata San Francisco. Tarungodi na tuluk na bito na kloka na kama ni moniti kina borobuka bei kema dawa ya Amerika. Dini kina ruana kloka na singa levo ni tusi di kina borowai bei kema dawa biti. Radio Bula Duavata San Francisco.